Chapter 1951. With a mournful cry, the phoenix Dharma body was suddenly flipped over and landed far away on the other side of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Hiss, Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the first time his phoenix Dharma body had been hit so fiercely. His chest also felt a sharp pain. However, the falling momentum of the heavy sword in Xiaohua's right hand did not change. The ghost cultivator coldly snorted. A pitch-black round shield that was like a mirror appeared in his hand. With a loud keng sound, the great wisdom heavy sword struck the round shield. Traces of cracks appeared on the round shield, and at this moment, Xiaohua seemed to have also been struck by a powerful force. His body actually lost its balance, and his entire body was flung out horizontally. But at this moment, the flames in Xiaohua's hand reappeared, and his palm struck the shrinking mist. With a sizzling sound as expected, the true samadhi fire was unable to ignite the green mist. You really don't give up? Although the ghost cultivator was mocking, he was actually somewhat weak. Clearly, he was injured by Xiaohua. But just as he said this, the green mist had also just retracted around the ghost cultivator's body. It looked like a green Taoist robe. At this time, Xiaohua's unbalanced body was facing him. Xiaohua opened his mouth and a scarlet flame flew out. Once this flame flew out, it immediately cut through the ghost cultivator's green mist like a meteor and rushed into his body. Ah? The ghost cultivator obviously treated this flame without heat as one thing. But when he saw the scarlet flame actually fly into his body, he was immediately shocked. The mist around his body that had already turned into a green Taoist robe quickly rolled and once again wrapped around the ghost cultivator. How can there still be time? Xiaohua sneered. He waved his hand and activated a secret technique. With a bang, a scarlet flame ignited within the green mist. That green facing the scarlet flame was extremely strange. Behind Xiaohua, the baby-like evil spirit flew over. It stretched out its fat, palmless arm and strangely grabbed at Xiaohua. Following the evil spirit's hand gesture, a desolate and sharp aura arrived first and grabbed Xiaohua's arm. Wah, there was a sound that seemed to be laughter, but before the evil spirit's bloody mouth could reach Xiaohua's arm, Xiaohua extended his right hand, and the prajna heavy sword unexpectedly struck the evil spirit's abdomen. Wah, this was the evil spirit's true cry. A fist-sized hole had actually been pierced through its chest by the prajna heavy sword. It had been pierced through. Caw. With a phoenix cry, the phoenix battle form regrouped and flew to the top of the evil spirit's head. Its sharp claws slashed down and hit the evil spirit's back. This baby-like evil spirit seemed to only have the intelligence of a baby. It did not know how to dodge, and the phoenix's claws sliced its back in half. Wah, the evil ghost turned its head and opened its small mouth. A long red tongue flew out and pierced towards the forehead of the phoenix celestial body. An incomparably fierce wind and bone-piercing cold air immediately pressed toward Xiaohua's forehead. Whoosh, Xiaohua was greatly shocked. The phoenix celestial body flapped its wings, wanting to block in front of it. Moreover, the celestial body also used the style of the Big Dipper god fist to dodge with all its might. With a light sound, the evil spirit's tongue pierced through the phoenix celestial body's wings. At the same time, it also pierced into the side of the phoenix celestial body's forehead. Immediately, a sharp pain came from Xiaohua's forehead. Ah! Xiaohua shouted loudly. He raised the prajna heavy sword and used all the strength in his body to hit the evil spirit's body. It seemed that with every hit, the pain would be lessened by a bit. Wah wah, the evil spirit was also very anxious. Its tongue turned, twisting like a soft sword and also stabbing toward Xiaohua's forehead. Unfortunately, Xiaohua's main body was not the phoenix celestial body. He only needed to twist his body slightly to dodge the tongue. Moreover, the prajna heavy sword was lifted upwards. The originally edgeless heavy sword was now like an incomparably sharp sword, easily cutting the tongue in half. Woo! The evil spirit was very anxious. Its small body bent down and opened its mouth. A gloomy and cold wind that could freeze a person to death was produced and blew toward Xiaohua. Go! Seeing the samadhi true fire around Xiaohua's body dying in the cold wind, Xiaohua opened his mouth and was about to spit out another spirit fire. But right at this moment, the triangular flag that the ghost cultivator had raised in the air suddenly shrunk rapidly. A powerful suction force was produced from the fog on the flag. The infant-like evil spirit's four limbs moved rapidly, struggling with all its might, but it was still unable to break free. Xiaohua did not have the time to look at the evil spirit being sucked back into the small flag. Instead, his figure moved rapidly. As he dodged, he used lightning escape to dodge to another level. But even so, half of Xiaohua's arm was still blown by the cold wind. Immediately, it was ice cold and abnormally numb. Even the protective magic treasure was unable to block this cold wind. Xiaohua was greatly shocked. He hurriedly urged his true essence to rapidly flow through the meridians in his right arm, wanting to get rid of this ice. Unfortunately, after several attempts, there was no effect. Only when Xiaohua finally urged the dragon transformation art did his right arm gradually regain feeling. Too powerful. Xiaohua sighed and raised his eyes to look at the ghost cultivator who was ignited by the spirit fire. At this moment, the scarlet spirit fire had already gradually emitted a green fog. Chapter 1952. At this moment, clapping sounds came from not far away. Xiaohua looked up and saw that it was Huang Mengxiang. A smile appeared on Huang Mengxiang's face, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he said while walking, "Xiaohua, you are indeed worthy of being a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, really beyond this servant's expectations." Sigh, a little Foundation Establishment cultivator actually killed a Foundation Establishment cultivator who controlled the Vermilion Bird formation and a ghost cultivator whose strength was comparable to a gold core middle stage cultivator. I feel strange. Besides the Dharma body, flying sword, Samadhi true fire, oh, and your strange crimson fire, what other tricks do you have? Yang Yu was shocked. She took 2 steps forward and tried to grab hold of Huang Mengxiang, but Huang Mengxiang turned his head slightly and stared at Yan Yu. In the blink of an eye, Yang Yu fell to the ground. Xiang Er. Huang Liang and Huang Tianle were shocked and shouted, "Fellow Taoist Huang, don't shout. She is not your Huang Mengxiang." Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "I'm afraid she is another ghost who wants to take over someone's body." Ah? Huang Liang and Huang Tianle stopped and stood there in shock. Are you surprised? Huang Mengxiang turned around and glanced at them, his eyes glowing with a faint green color. The Huang family of Tianmen Mountain has done too many shameful things. Today they are here to seek revenge. This is the cycle of the heavenly Tao. They have done all kinds of bad things. When the time comes, they will take revenge. Senior, Huang Tianle said in a trembling and sorrowful voice, "When I pursued Lan Jingming, I felt that I had let down the Lan family, so I didn't dare to fight back. I only asked that he let the other innocent fellow Taoists go. Later on, I don't know about this ghost cultivator. After thinking about it, I really don't understand. He is a cultivator whose strength is comparable to a gold core stage cultivator. He can wipe out my Huang family at any time. Why did he wait until today to act? Moreover, I can't see through Senior's cultivation. It must be similar to the ghost cultivator just now. But why did you only act today? What grudge does my Huang family have with Senior? Anyway, I can't escape today. Can Senior explain the matter clearly? Why don't you let this old man die in peace?" "Ha," Huang Mengxiang laughed, his long hair flying. "You want to be a ghost who understands everything? In my hands, the Huang family of Tianmen Mountain can't even be ghosts." Kachakat. Another series of explosions rang out, and the heavenly thunder shook the entire Vermilion Bird Palace. The Vermilion Bird flame array on top of the palace rapidly flickered, and then its color dimmed. The runes on top of the array began to fade, and then they gradually fell off. The earth and stones under the runes also began to fall. "This lightning tribulation is indeed yours." Xiaohua was extremely astonished in his heart, but his expression did not change. He coldly said, "Looks like you're afraid of this lightning tribulation and want to hide in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall to avoid the lightning tribulation? With my cultivation, why would I need to rely on the Vermilion Bird Flame formation to avoid the tribulation lightning? Huang Mingxiang sneered and said, "This slave wanted to hide in Huang Mingxiang's body and see if I could avoid the thunder tribulation. I didn't expect that the dream mirage butterfly's egg would be destroyed by you. If Huang Mingxiang hadn't awakened, maybe this slave would have been able to escape this 10,000-year Great Tribulation." Ah, 10,000-year Great Tribulation. Xiaohua was shocked. Unfortunately, it was messed up by your little foundation establishment for no reason. Tell me, shouldn't this slave properly thank you? As Huang Mingxiang spoke, he didn't seem to make any movements. He only raised his head and opened his eyes. A powerful suction force was generated and directly rolled towards Xiaohua. This suction force was very strange. It was sucking in Xiaohua's divine sense, eyes, and so on. Feeling his own divine sense involuntarily break away, his eyes also involuntarily looked towards Huang Mingxiang's eyes, and those eyes seemed to contain endless mysteries and endless charm. Xiaohua was greatly shocked. The magic power in his entire body surged, and the Samadhi true fire in his hand was waved out, and the phoenix celestial body also broke away from his body. Alas, the Samadhi true fire flew in front of Huang Mingxiang. Huang Mingxiang raised his tender white little hand, and with a pa, he randomly slapped it. As if he was slapping some fireflies, he extinguished them one by one. It seemed like he wasn't injured at all. What made Xiaohua's heart tremble even more was that just as the phoenix celestial body broke away, the suction force in Huang Mingxiang's eyes increased greatly. That 20-something feet tall phoenix celestial body actually struggled as if it was also going to be sucked into it. Bad, Xiaohua suddenly thought. His phoenix celestial body was formed by the wind of the netherworld, and there was even the soul essence of the fire ape and Chao and I within it. Those were all not much different from ghosts. His own divine sense was still being sucked away. Wasn't the phoenix celestial body also being taken away by someone? Withdraw. Xiaohua hurriedly withdrew the phoenix celestial body. His entire body used the ethereal steps, and strangely slid within the suction force, escaping far away. That's strange. What kind of magic is that? How come this slave has never seen it before? Huang Mingxiang called out strangely. Right at this time, rumble, 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 the sound of rolling thunder fell down. With a series of kakaka sounds, the roof of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall was immediately destroyed. The 1 zhang tall roof fell down with a twatch sound, smashing right in the center of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Following which, a torrential downpour passed through the space and fell inside the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. With a kachet sound, a pile of earth and rocks fell inside the palace hall. Fortunately, there were no cultivators in the center of the palace hall at this time, and no one was injured. With a kachet sound, following the fall of the palace hall's roof, the Vermilion Bird blazing flame formation was completely destroyed. A purple heavenly lightning as thick as a thumb immediately fell down, striking right at Huang Mingxiang. Huang Mingxiang raised her head, and a green brilliance flashed in her eyes. Dozens of green halos flew out in succession, rushed into the air, and blocked the heavenly lightning. Teach. With dozens of sounds, the green halos were destroyed by the heavenly lightning, and the heavenly lightning also disappeared at the same time. Sigh, this girl's physical body is still not very useful. Huang Mingxiang said in a low voice. Under this servant's charm, such a genius actually appeared. If another 10,000 years passed, she would be able to become very useful. While speaking, a transparent human figure with black, white, and green flowing on its body gradually came out from Huang Mingxiang's physical body, and Huang Mingxiang collapsed on the ground, unconscious. Xiaohua was stunned. You're actually a ghost? What? Can't this servant be a ghost? That ghost flew into the air, and coldly said. The dark red dot between her eyebrows was especially obvious. Roar, the ghost rushed into the air, and with a wave of her hand, a hurricane surged around her body. The countless ghosts in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall were all swept up by the hurricane and transformed into wisps of green light that flew into the ghost's body. Following the disappearance of the ghost, the green souls in the bodies of many cultivators were also extracted. They let out horrifying screams and flew into the ghost's body. For some reason, the souls of Huang Tianle, Huang Mang, and a few other Tianmen Mountain's Huang family disciples were not extracted. Following the absorption of the souls, the ghost's body began to show 5 colors and gradually formed into a young girl. This young girl's facial features were delicate and pretty, and she looked somewhat similar to Huang Mingxiang. This formation of yours is actually quite interesting. Within the hurricane, the true Samadhi fire on the rabbit's formation had already been extinguished. However, the formation still flickered with a weak brilliance and was barely holding on. The girl said somewhat strangely, "You really have a lot of tricks up your sleeve?" Seeing the ghost float towards the formation, Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. At this time, he already didn't have any more powerful tricks up his sleeve. He didn't dare to hesitate any longer, and opened his mouth, spitting out another spirit fire. He pointed his finger, and the true essence within his meridians rapidly flowed. He stirred up all the remaining magic power in his body to activate the spirit fire. That spirit fire was like a fire snake, and it pounced towards the ghost. What kind of fire is this? That ghost opened her eyes, and unexpectedly, a dark red netherworld fire also rushed out, blocking in front of the spirit fire. With a boom, the netherworld fire was actually ignited by the spirit fire, and following the netherworld fire, it burned towards the ghost. Ouch! The ghost was greatly alarmed, and Xiaohua's heart was instead filled with joy. Unfortunately, just as the spirit fire flew in front of the ghost's eyes suddenly changed, turning into 7 eyes, forming the shape of 7 stars. Moreover, from those 7 eyes, 7 kinds of flame-like brilliance sprayed out, blocking in front of the spirit fire. With a squeak sound, the 7 kinds of flame-like brilliance almost turned white, blocking the scarlet-red spirit fire. The two entangled with each other and eliminated each other. In no less than half a cup of tea's time, the spirit fire gradually disappeared, and the 7 kinds of brilliance also died out. Sigh. Xiaohua's magic power was completely gone, and he stood in midair. Although the earth expansion technique in his body was doing its best to refine the earth crystal Yao milk, it simply couldn't quench his thirst. Your flame still can't beat this servant's 7 eyes amorous passion fire. The ghost laughed loudly, flew into midair, and stretched out her hand to grab Xiaohua's forehead. Xiaohua opened his mouth and spat out another spirit fire. The ghost was greatly alarmed and hurriedly dodged, but Xiaohua's magic power was completely gone, and he simply couldn't control the spirit fire. That spirit fire could only stop in front of Xiaohua's eyes. So it's because your magic power has been overdraft. The ghost laughed loudly. Like I said, a puny little foundation establishment cultivator can block this servant. So what does this servant's several tens of thousands of years of cultivation count for? Several tens of thousands of years? Xiaohua's eyes stared straight. Kachacha at this time, another bolt of heavenly lightning fell. The ghost raised her head, and 7 rays of fire flew out from her 7 eyes, forcibly extinguishing the heavenly lightning. Damn it, this is a real lightning tribulation. At this critical moment, Xiaohua still had the leisure to think about the lightning tribulation he went through first. As expected, each bolt of heavenly lightning is more powerful than the last. The ghost faced the sky, looked at the ceiling that was like the mouth of a well, and sighed, "Endless lightning tribulation. Today is this servant's tribulation. Let the heavenly lightning come even more fiercely. This servant also wants to vent all the hatred in my heart on the Huang family." Immediately the ghost turned her head, looked at the rabbit formation, looked at Shui, and laughed. "Hee, this is your little lover, right? This servant also wants you to have a taste of the different paths of humans and ghosts, the feeling of being separated by yin and yang." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand. That hand suddenly elongated, and in an instant, it touched the rabbit formation that was several zhang away. What was even more strange was that although that hand was blocked by the rabbit formation, it suddenly turned into liquid and gradually forced its way into the formation. Chapter 1953. This is bad. Seeing this, Xiaohua was somewhat caught off guard and was greatly alarmed. He himself understood that the rabbit array should have 360 talismans. He only had the ability to refine dozens of talismans and was still far from being able to complete the array. The ghost breaking through like this would definitely reveal a flaw. Xiaohua clearly still underestimated the ghost's cultivation. Just as he sent out his thoughts, the liquid had already entered the array. Once the liquid entered the array, it immediately transformed into a hand again. Although Xue Xue's butterfly orchid had already been released, the fluttering butterfly was simply a fallen leaf in that strange hand. The lightning on the lightning whip was even more like an itch. That hand didn't care at all. Without waiting for Xue Xue to resist, it grabbed Xue Xue's neck. How is it? Is your heart aching? Or are you preparing to escape in your heart? The ghost's 7 eyes once again transformed into 2 eyes. Accompanied by a delicate and pale face, it actually had a bit of a playful appearance. Put Xue Xue down, I'll let you do whatever you want with me. Xiaohua opened his mouth and sucked the spiritual fire into his mouth. Haha, you can still be considered a little cultivator with some affection. The ghost laughed loudly and said, You think you can escape? Do you think your servant will be deceived by your hypocrisy? That I'll let you go? Haha, in this world, even family affection can be betrayed. What affection can still be real? The ghost sneered and said, If you kill yourself right now, I might consider letting this girl's soul reincarnate as a human. Xiaohua, don't listen to her. At this moment, Xue Xue shouted, I've already written everything on a jade slip. You can escape, I definitely won't blame you. Jade slip? Xiaohua naturally thought of that pink jade slip, but how could he leave? Slightly shaking his head, Xiaohua smiled and said, Wife, if you have something to say, just say it. Why bother with a jade slip? Right now, I don't have any magic power in my body. How can I escape from this ghost's evil clutches? What she said was nothing more than watching a play. Sigh, Xue Xue knew that Xiaohua wouldn't lie to her. Moreover, she also saw Xiaohua's weakness after using the spiritual fire. She only sighed and said, Husband, this is also good. Although you and I can't dual cultivate, my heart is already yours. Now that you and I can die together, it can be said that we can live in the same bed, die together, and be a pair of mandarin ducks with the same name. She's much happier than Little Cabbage. AI, husband, can you let me take another look at Little Cabbage? If you and I are no longer around, who knows who will eat its meat? Xiaohua bitterly smiled. He didn't expect that Xue Xue would still be thinking about the little cabbage at the moment of death. So, he waved his hand and took out the wooden basin containing the little cabbage from the space. He smiled and said, Wife, don't worry. Even if this husband dies with you, the little cabbage will still be fine. Absolutely no one will be able to eat its meat. Looking at the little cabbage swimming in the wooden basin, Xue Xue muttered, AI, poor little cabbage, I won't be able to see you again. I don't know where your other little cabbage is. I can't let you accompany your Yulang Jun. Husband, do you think the 2 of us will turn into 2 little fish after we die? Swimming freely in the cold river? Even if we change, we can't change into fish again. We will be eaten by people. Xiaohua quickly said. Then what will we change into? Xue Xue and Xiaohua had already put aside life and death and actually talked about it lovingly. Butterfly transformation. Xiaohua shouted, You and I will become 2 beautiful butterflies. Early in the morning, we will drink the sweet rain, and at night, we will be friends with the fragrant grass. Great! Xue Xue clapped her hands and said, just as husband said, Butterfly transformation, butterfly transformation. At this time, the ghost's voice was unexpectedly mournful. Her eyes were watery as she muttered, If this servant can transform into a butterfly together with you Langjun, wouldn't that be the best thing in the world? Kachacha, the 3rd heavenly thunder unexpectedly hit the ghost's head. Ah, you Langjun? The ghost screamed. Lightning lingered around her body. The ghost hand that was holding Xue Xue's neck immediately withdrew. You are Little Cabbage? At this time, if Xiaohua still didn't know who this ghost was, then he was really an idiot. Seeing the dark red on the ghost's forehead, he said in astonishment, Let this servant see your Little Cabbage. The ghost said in a low voice. Please. Xiaohua put down the wooden basin. Ah, Little Cabbage, This servant hasn't seen you for many years. The ghost sighed and said, I didn't think that you, who were fighting to be eaten, would be alive today. Such a kind and affectionate couple, how could this servant separate you two? Little Cabbage, Senior? Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, I didn't think that Senior, actually? Actually what? Isn't it just a lonely ghost? Little Cabbage's gaze passed through the hole in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall and looked at the horizon. There, thunder rolled and purple lightning arcs streaked across the night sky. She said in a low voice, a wild ghost that has been struggling at death's door for several tens of thousands of years. Senior Little Cabbage. At this time, Xue Xue also gathered her courage and asked with a smile, why didn't Senior turn into a fish? What about that scholar? He also didn't turn into a fish? Did he also turn into a ghost? You guys aren't together? Hee hee, little girl, how can the legends of the secular world be true? Little Cabbage smiled and said, this servant's name is Huang Yi. There are more than 1,000 legends about this servant on this cold river, but how can they know the truth? They only use their own appearance to make the story go in the direction they want it to go. If eating little cabbage can make lovers get married, then there wouldn't be any heartless people in this world. This legend is nothing but a lie made up by the fishermen on this cold river, a trick to swindle money. Soon after, Huang Yi looked at Huang Tianle, whose face was ashen and whose expression was indescribable. He sneered and said, I'm afraid that there are no real records in the Huang family's ancient records, right? Ancestor? Huang Tianle said ancestor for a long time, not knowing how to address him. This servant has already broken all ties with the Huang family of Tianmen Mountain. You don't need to call this servant anything, just calling me Senior is enough. Huang Yi sneered and said, if you know what this servant did to Tianmen Mountain, I'm afraid that you won't even call me Senior. Senior, Huang Tianle said, my Tianmen Mountain's Huang family's ancient records do indeed have such records, but unfortunately, it's not detailed, only a few sentences. However, since Senior is a member of Tianmen Mountain and also has the surname Huang, then Senior will always be an ancestor in this junior's eyes. If it's not detailed, how would they dare to write it in detail? Huang Yi laughed loudly and said coldly, do you know why the Huang family of Tianmen Mountain hasn't had many children after this servant? Why are there so few of their children with aptitude? This servant can tell you right now, it was this servant who put a curse on your Huang family. Because of this curse, there are no children, and aptitude is limited. Talisman? Xiao Hua's heart stirred as he recalled the Zhu clan of Jinghua City. Chapter 1954. Senior, what did my ancestor do to you? Why do you hate the Huang family so much? Huang Tianle's expression suddenly changed as he asked, no matter what, the blood of the Huang family flows in Senior's body. You're right. It's precisely because I have the Huang family's Vermilion Bird sacred bloodline that I was able to use my sacred blood to refine the Seven Eyes amorous passion flame and resist the lightning tribulation for tens of thousands of years. I'm not afraid of Xiao Hua's strange flame. Huang Yi first laughed, then sighed. If it weren't for that, I would have killed the entire Tianmen Mountain with my own hands. Now that I've spared you all, it can be considered a favor. Is the curse so powerful? Xiao Hua's eyes turned a few times, and he said in a low voice, Junior saw a secular family with the surname Zhu in Jinghua City. They were cursed, but it seemed to be cured with this pill. As he spoke, Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out a parasol pill. Jinghua City's Zhu family? Huang Yi waved his hand, and the parasol pill flew in front of his eyes. He seemed to be thinking, why is this family's surname so familiar? I seem to have heard of it somewhere. Your pill is a bit strange. Huang Yi's 7 eyes appeared, and after 7 flames flashed, he said, the material used to refine this pill is ordinary, but it seems to contain something rich in vitality. I'm afraid this thing can break the curse. Of course, the curse is a sinister art. It's related to the cultivation of the caster and the degree of sinister poison of the curse. I'm afraid your pill can't break my curse. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and the parasol pill flew into Xiao Hua's hand. This pill is very rare. It's effective against sinister arts, even the poison of the nine-headed dove just now. You could have used this to detoxify the poison just now. There's no need to use the poison of the green python. Junior is ignorant and inexperienced. I really didn't think so much. Xiao Hua scratched his head and said awkwardly as he took the parasol pill. Senior. Shui walked out of the rabbit spell formation and accompanied Xiao Hua. She still asked with concern, Senior still hasn't said how you became like this and how you endured for so many years. Also, where is Yu Zhongquan and Yu Shusheng? Looking at Shui, Huang Yi smiled and said, Yu Lang is naturally dead. He didn't have the opportunity to become a ghost like me. After so many years, he has probably been reincarnated several times. Senior, does a mortal scholar have such great charm? Shui asked curiously, he actually made you give up your cultivation? Young lady, you still don't understand? Huang Yi said, there is no reason for love. No matter if it is an immortal or a mortal, there is no difference in status. I understand. Shui hurriedly said, actually, Junior and Xiao Hua are about the same. This Junior just doesn't understand. What does a weak scholar like him have to make Senior fall in love with him? Huang Yi shook his head and said, you are wrong. The people of the world have been confused by the Immortal Alliance and the Huang family. Yu Lang is not a scholar. He is a Confucian cultivator, a ranger. Confucian cultivator? Ranger? Xiao Hua was stunned. He looked at Shui, also baffled. Sai, you all don't know. Early in the ancient times, Xiaoyu continent didn't only have Taoism. There were also Yao cultivators, beast cultivators, Buddhist cultivators, Confucian cultivators, and other different cultivation paths. Huang Yi smiled bitterly. But later, for some reason, Taoism became the dominant sect and blocked all other cultivation paths. Yu Lang only became a ranger because he obtained the inheritance of Confucian cultivators. I understand. Huang Yi suddenly realized and said, Jinghua City's Zhu family was an extremely famous Confucian cultivator family after the ancient times. Their curse was probably left behind by Taoism's seniors. Really? Xiao Hua asked in disbelief. Huang Yi said embarrassedly, I can't be sure. Yu Lang told me all this that day. And Yu Lang, because he had the inheritance of Confucian cultivators and cultivated the core of Dan, he was discovered by the Huang family's seniors and was discovered by the Immortal Alliance. At this point, Huang Yi was disappointed. She raised her head and saw another thick bolt of heavenly lightning striking down from the sky. The power of the heavenly lightning was stronger than the previous one. Huang Yi was already injured by the heavenly lightning just now, so this time it was even more difficult. She managed to eliminate the heavenly lightning with great difficulty, but her body faded a bit. Yu Lang, it was all this servant's fault. It's a pity that I became a ghost and became a ghost cultivator. I can't see Yu Lang anymore. Huang Yi said sorrowfully, if I wasn't injured and wasn't saved by Yu Lang in the ancient temple, none of this would have happened. Shui accompanied Huang Yi in her grief, but Xiao Hua looked pensive. After Huang Yi dodged a bolt of heavenly lightning, he clapped his hands and took out Confucian clothes, core of Dan and turtle shell. He asked, Senior, is this the core of Dan you mentioned? Ah? Once the core of Dan was taken out, a bright red light shone brightly. Huang Yi hurriedly blocked it with her hands and cried out, this is the core of Dan with overwhelming righteousness. Quickly put it away, I can't bear it. But just as Xiao Hua was about to put the core of Dan away, Huang Yi shouted again, don't worry, this core of Dan, why does it have Yu Lang's breath? Yes, this is Yu Lang's core of Dan. As Huang Yi spoke, she floated up and resisted the red light from the core of Dan that was slowly corroding her body. She touched the core of Dan with her hand and said, that's not right, Yu Lang died in the cold river that day, how could he? Seeing that Huang Yi's body was corroding, Xiao Hua didn't dare to be careless. He waved his hand and put the core of Dan into his space. Huang Yi was very disappointed and sad. He stared at the void and no one knew what he was thinking. He didn't care about his body at all. Maybe Senior, you also had other opportunities and practiced Confucian cultivation after reincarnation. Xiao Hua comforted her carefully. Ha, little friend Xiao, if you don't enter the ghost path, you won't know about reincarnation. Wang Yi smiled bitterly and said, although I don't know the truth, I know that Yu Lang won't be able to. At this point, Huang Yi didn't seem to want to say anything more. He looked at the Confucian robe and tortoise shell in Xiao Hua's hands and said, these are indeed items of Confucian cultivation. The Confucian robe is the same as the Dao sect's magic treasure and can protect the body. The tortoise shell records the Confucian cultivation method. The characters are different from my Dao sects. However, little friend Xiao, I won't tell you. Yu Lang is your predecessor. In the Dawn Rain continent where the Dao sect was at its peak, Confucian cultivation could only be killed. Yes, Junior, naturally knows. Xiao Hua nodded and put the Confucian robe and tortoise shell into his space. Rumble in the sky above the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall, there was another burst of thunder. Huang Yi's waist was already empty. Obviously, he might not be able to withstand another lightning tribulation. Huang Yi looked up and said, I naturally cultivate the ghost path. 1,000-year small lightning tribulation, 10,000-year large lightning tribulation, I'm always worried about the future. Day and night, I have to think of ways to avoid the lightning tribulation. I'm afraid this will be my last lightning tribulation. In the future, I won't exist in this world anymore. No one will know the real story of Little Cabbage. Since that's the case, I'll tell little friend Xiao the details. Senior, can't you enter reincarnation? Shue said anxiously. She really sympathized with Huang Yi. Silly girl. Huang Yi looked at Shue lovingly and said, the heavens are fair. Since I entered the ghost path and stayed in this world, I can't reincarnate and become a human again. So it's like that. Shue was extremely disappointed, but Xiao Hua's heart was moved. Just as he was about to speak, Huang Yi said again, I remember that it was a bright and beautiful spring day. I met the enemies of the Huang family in the distance of the cold river. I was seriously injured and barely managed to escape to the cold river. They blocked me in the sky above the ancient temple. Just as I was about to lose my life, Wandering Man wore a Confucian robe and held a long sword in his hand. He was like an immortal descending to this world. Although he knew his cultivation was insufficient, he still risked his life to save me, a person he had never met before. Sigh, little friend Xiao, your actions today are very similar to Xiao Lang's from that day. This is also the reason why I haven't made a move on you yet. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to speak, Huang Yi said again, under Wandering Man's protection, the two of us escaped from the cold river for several thousand li and finally threw off the strong enemy. However, the two of us were also seriously injured. Sigh, what a miserable couple. It wasn't easy to find a secluded valley with beautiful spring flowers to recuperate. That was the beginning of the most beautiful memories in my life. Little Cabbage was the name I made up to deal with Wandering Man at that time. I remember clearly that for a total of 104 days, I didn't know why I didn't send a summoning talisman. However, after I returned to the Huang family, I didn't stop thinking about the days in the secluded valley. I didn't stop thinking about Wandering Man. It was only at that time that I realized that I had already fallen in love with Wandering Man. I fell in love with that Wandering Man who saw no evil, heard no evil, spoke no evil, moved no evil, was cautious and even somewhat inflexible. It was also because of him that I didn't want to send a summoning talisman for a long time. After that, I thought for a long time. I even paced back and forth in front of the ancient temple for a long time before I went to look for Wandering Man again. Huang Yi's tone revealed a trace of shyness and happiness. Fortunately, Wandering Man seemed to be the same as me. He was also absent-minded in the ancient temple and recited Guan Guan Ju Do on the river's continent. A gentle and graceful lady, a gentleman's good mate. When he saw my arrival, he was actually surprised and happy. It was as if our hearts were connected. We thought it was a love destined by the heavens. However, a few years later, when I was discussing the matter of dual cultivation with Wandering Man, I found out that Wandering Man was actually a Confucian cultivator that I had never heard of before. Furthermore, Confucian cultivators were the great enemies of the Taoist sect. I would never be able to openly dual cultivate with him. However, I didn't care at all. As long as I could stay by Wandering Man's side, everything else was not a problem. Huang Yi continued, "It's a pity that this servant's cultivation did not improve." In the end, the family head, who is also the servant's father, found out. I was too naive. I thought that I could narrow the gap between the Taoist sect and the Confucian cultivators with the love between father and daughter. I thought that I would be able to complete my beautiful dream of growing old together with you. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Chapter 1955. However, I never expected that for the sake of the Huang family's future, my father would report this matter to the Immortal Alliance. In order to destroy the inheritance of the Confucian cultivators, the Immortal Alliance actually set a trap in the Cold River. They used my name to lure Yu Lang here and tried to kill him with the strength of several people. However, I knew that the situation was not good. When I arrived, Yu Lang was already dying. I knew that it was because of me, so I severed all ties with the Huang family and even the Dao sect at the bank of the Cold River. I swore that I would live and die with Yu Lang. But this servant's cultivation is really too shallow. Seeing Yu Lang die in this servant's arms, this servant was helpless. The people from the Immortal Alliance were even more ruthless. They didn't care about the consequences and killed me. Huang Yi said hatefully, however, that day was the same as today. It was the 15th day of the 7th month, the day of the 100 Ghosts journey. A malicious ghost was in the same situation as me today, avoiding the tribulation on the Cold River. Unfortunately, he couldn't avoid the tribulation. When he couldn't avoid the tribulation, he saw my soul. I inherited the true blood of the Huang family's vermilion bird. Although it hadn't been awakened, my soul was different from ordinary souls. That malicious ghost wanted to devour my soul to refine the seven-eyed amorous flame to resist the tribulation. Unfortunately, he was devoured by my soul. However, it was because I devoured that malicious ghost that I was forced to cultivate the Ghost Tao. However, there were also experts from the Immortal Alliance who understood the Ghost Tao that day. They actually used their divine ability to destroy my soul. In desperation, I divided my soul into thousands of pieces and placed them in the bodies of the fishes in the Cold River. Huang Yi recalled, I wanted to use this to escape. However, after the experts from the Immortal Alliance killed all the fishes in the Cold River, they were afraid that my soul would escape, so they made up a touching story. Alas, it wasn't really a story. They only told the story of the cabbage. They said that couples who ate the cabbage would grow old together. The fishermen on the Cold River also added fuel to the fire. They worked even harder to catch the cabbage, which led to the scarcity of the cabbage. Over the past tens of thousands of years, who knows how many cultivators and mortals have consumed my soul? Seeing Xue Xue's confusion, Huang Yi added, that day, after my soul escaped, I endured the pain of being steamed and devoured by others. I cultivated the Ghost Tao diligently, and when I achieved great success in the Ghost Tao, I immediately wanted to take back all of my soul. However, at that time, I realized that my soul had already merged with the fish and could not be taken back. I could only take back all of the imprints on my soul and let it perish on its own. Humph, as soon as this servant mastered my divine ability, I wanted to avenge Yu Lang. Unfortunately, this servant's cultivation base couldn't catch up to the experts of the Immortal Alliance, so I could only vent my anger on the Huang clan. This servant cast the curse technique of the ghost cultivator on the Huang clan's ancestor. Didn't this servant's greedy father want to plot against the Huang clan's future? This servant will not let him have his way. This led to the decline of the Huang clan of Tianmen Mountain. When Xiao Hua heard this, he didn't know how to comfort Huang Yi. The pain that Huang Yi suffered was far beyond his imagination, so he definitely couldn't persuade him. However, the Huang clan suffering for tens of thousands of years still can't resolve this servant's resentment. Today, this servant has made two preparations. If this servant can't survive the heavenly tribulation in Huang Mingxiang's body, then this servant is prepared to take a risk and see if I can seize Huang Mingxiang's body. Although it's almost impossible, Huang Mingxiang and I both have the Suzaku's sacred blood, so there's a glimmer of hope. If this servant can't survive the heavenly tribulation, then the Huang clan of Tianmen Mount Hehe, from today onwards, it won't exist in the Xiaoyu continent. Alas, who knew that fate makes fools of people? This servant actually met fellow Xiao. Huang Mingxiang's dream experience can be considered as a little compensation to the Huang clan. As he spoke, Huang Yi glanced at Xiao Hua. Although he didn't say anything, Xiao Hua naturally knew the meaning of this gaze. His face slightly reddened, and he felt unnatural for a while. Alas, actually, when this servant reached out to attack Huang Tianle and the others just now, I already couldn't bear it in my heart. Huang Yi sighed and said, after all, they are of the same lineage and they are all this servant's juniors. When I was casting the charm earlier, I felt that it was satisfying, and I was happy to take revenge. However, to really kill them, I still can't. To tell you the truth, fellow Xiao, when this servant saw that Huang Mingxiang's talent was outstanding and that he wasn't affected by this servant's charm, I also felt that this was the will of the heavens and that it was time for this servant to stop. Unfortunately, this servant's charm technique is easy to cast, but difficult to remove. This servant is powerless. Alas, forget it, forget it. After Huang Yi finished speaking, he looked up at the sky and shouted, "Wandering man, ah wandering man, this servant is going to leave. Saying that we will meet again in the next life is just a luxury." Kachachet, there was another burst of thunder, and the heavenly thunder descended. At this moment, Huang Yi no longer had any resistance. He only stared at the heavenly thunder with his 7 eyes, and gave up after a little resistance. Seeing the heavenly thunder rolling, Huang Yi's body was suffused with bits of lightning, and his entire body was gradually melting. Xiao Hua understood that Huang Yi had resisted the heavenly thunder tribulation for tens of thousands of years and was already exhausted. Moreover, at this moment, she had revealed everything. The hatred in her heart had already been eliminated, and she no longer had the desire to live in this world. This heavenly thunder tribulation might be her release. Let this servant turn into dust, dissipate in this Tianmen mountain, and become an eternal legend above the cold river. Huang Yi said sadly, I also hope that all the lovers who have eaten this servant's body will be married. Xue Xue couldn't help but cry, and her expression was sorrowful. Senior, Xiao Hua bowed and said, Junior has something that I don't understand. There's no harm in speaking. At this moment, the heavenly thunder tribulation had already passed, but the heavenly thunder tribulation was forming again. Clearly, it was not giving Huang Yi any time to breathe. But even if the heavenly thunder tribulation just now had already greatly damaged Huang Yi's vitality, most of his body had already disappeared, leaving only a badly damaged upper body and a very complete head. Junior wants to know, Senior has cultivated the ghost path for tens of thousands of years. Is it the same as a normal soul or soul essence? Is it possible to reincarnate after being reincarnated? Xiao Hua asked carefully. Huang Yi was shocked, and said thoughtfully, Little friend Xiao, ghosts are originally formed by powerful souls, which is the so-called condensation of 3 souls and 6 spirits. It is not fundamentally different from the so-called soul essence. According to this servant's knowledge, there are devil path methods that can suck away the servant's soul, or increase cultivation, or refine devil tools. Little friend Xiao is not a person of the devil path, so you will not have devil path methods. But little friend Zhao's Dharma body seems to be somewhat strange, and somewhat related to soul essence. Little friend Xiao is not thinking of sucking away this servant's soul, right? Oh no. Xiao Hua said anxiously. Junior, seeing that Huang Yi had misunderstood, Xiao Hua hurriedly patted his forehead and circulated the exquisite leaf scripture. When the Buddha Saraira in Xiao Hua's Naiwan palace shone brightly with golden light, he immediately chanted the incantation, Lin. The hidden swastika symbol on his forehead gradually appeared, and then it quickly spun, and then projected a tiny swastika symbol of golden light in front of Xiao Hua's head. That golden light gradually expanded with the circulation of Xiao Hua's Buddhist mantra, and a Buddha Saraira with one hand pointing to the sky and the other pointing to the ground gradually formed. Chapter 1956. And this Buddha relic continued to grow until it was 1 foot tall before it stopped. The 1 foot tall Buddha relic shone with golden light, and a pair of blurry eyes looked at Huang Yi with compassion. Although his vision was blurry, Huang Yi could clearly feel the look in his eyes, as well as the compassion within them. Ah? Huang Yi instinctively dodged and called out naturally, Buddha? Buddhist sect? Lin. Xiaohua used the Buddhist technique again, and the golden Lin word spat out from the mouth of the Buddha relic and spun towards Huang Yi's body. Huang Yi's voice was pleasantly surprised at this time. Little friend Xiao, since you have this technique, why didn't you use it earlier? This is the nemesis of those wandering ghosts. Senior knows. Xiaohua saw that the Buddhist technique was effective and said with a smile, Junior doesn't want to follow in Senior Yu's footsteps. Moreover, with Senior's technique, this Buddhist relic, is Senior's delicacy, right? He, little friend, is right. Huang Yi said with a smile, if you had used this thing earlier, your life would have been long gone. I definitely wouldn't have let you live a moment longer. Senior, please wait a moment. Since this technique is useful, Junior will lend Senior a hand and help Senior transcend and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Many thanks, Venerable One. Huang Yi put his hands together very sincerely and bowed to thank him. Kacha. Thunderous sounds rang out as the entire roof of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall was ripped open. A purple ball of heavenly thunder flew down, and its sharp heavenly might suppressed the entire Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Before the heavenly thunder even landed, Huang Yi's body had already begun to collapse. Sigh, Venerable One. I'm afraid I don't have this fortune. Huang Yi saw Xiaohua using all his strength to urge the Lin word of the exquisite leaf scripture to fly out. Although it hit his body, the Buddhist power was limited and it was difficult to completely transcend. He couldn't help but say sadly, even if I become the endless world, I will still be grateful for Venerable One's grace. Huang Yi, since you call me Venerable One, how can I not help you? Even if I have to give up this relic, I will still help you transcend. Come, I'll give you this relic. Hurry up and swallow it. Xiaohua laughed heartily. The originally blurry eyes of the Buddha relic suddenly became clear and opened. His feet also took half a step forward. Just this half step caused the entire Vermilion Bird Palace Hall to suddenly resound with the sound of Sanskrit. Countless heavenly flowers descended from the sky. This was the heavens and earth lamenting Xiaohua's act of sacrificing oneself for justice. Venerable One, Venerable One, Venerable One. Huang Yi's heart trembled. He prostrated himself on the ground and cried, I know I was wrong, I was really wrong. You are not in the wrong, it is the people of the world who are in the wrong. Since the people of the world have been eating your flesh and eating your soul for several tens of thousands of years, I will repay your debt on behalf of the people of the world. I will repay your affection and use my body to repay the evil that the people of the world have done to you. Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira actually opened its mouth. It was so compassionate and so kind. Thank you, Venerable One. Huang Yi expressed his gratitude, and the scarlet mark on his forehead became brighter. Senior, hurry. There's not much time left. The heavenly lightning is about to strike. Xiaohua was very anxious. He also didn't know why his Buddha Sarira suddenly spoke the words in his heart, so he hurriedly urged. Okay, Huang Yi's figure fluttered and pounced towards Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira, completely covering it. Ah! Intense pain emerged from Xiaohua's mind and deeply pierced into his soul. This was a pain that Xiaohua had never experienced before. Even when the heavenly tribulation descended last time and tore his body and meridians apart, he didn't feel this kind of pain. This pain was the pain of Huang Yi's loneliness for several tens of thousands of years. The pain of his body being eaten and his soul being eaten for several tens of thousands of years. At this moment, all of this pain was directed towards Huang Yi's body. Living a life worse than death, this was Xiaohua's only feeling. He was about to collapse. He definitely didn't expect that he only wanted to abandon his Buddha Sarira and help Huang Yi enter the cycle of reincarnation. How could there be such a great pain? How could he know that his thinking was too simple? What he was doing was a great wish of the Buddhist sect. This kind of great wish had great fortune, but since it was great fortune, it naturally had a great burden. Otherwise, the heavenly tribulation wouldn't have appeared in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. It was as if several tens of thousands of years had passed. At every moment, there was loneliness and desolation. At every moment, there was the boiling of his body and the tearing of his soul. However, Xiaohua couldn't do anything. His body couldn't move. His mind was also clear, and he wouldn't faint. In the entire Vermilion Bird Palace Hall, time and space seemed to have stagnated just like that. Amitabha, so sad, so good. Suddenly, a Buddhist chant resounded from Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira. Xiaohua's Buddha Sarira was completely swallowed by Huang Yi. Xiaohua's entire body became light, and all of the pain disappeared. Many thanks, Venerable One. At the place where the Buddha Sarira disappeared, Huang Yi's entire body completely disappeared. Only a wisp of white smoke remained. Venerable One's Naiwen Palace seems to have been sealed by a powerful existence. Even when this servant's cultivation was at its peak, I still couldn't remove it. This servant just discovered it, but after hesitating for a while, I decided to inform Venerable One. Venerable One's enemy's cultivation is very high, so you have to be careful. Moreover, this servant has recorded all of my knowledge in this imprint. I hope Venerable One can be merciful and save all living beings. As he spoke, the scarlet mark that was originally on Huang Yi's forehead flew into the swastika mark on Xiaohua's forehead. This servant has to leave. Oh right, this servant's imprint contains a secret method to erase memories. Venerable One's Buddhist sect cultivation is the same as Yulang's Confucian sect cultivation. Both of them aren't favored by the Tao sect. Although Venerable One sacrificed himself and his Buddhist sect cultivation isn't present, Huang Yi still wanted to say something, but the wisp of white smoke gradually disappeared. Faintly, only a few words were left. Yu Zhongquan Yulang. Where are you? It seemed to resound in Xiaohua's heart. Kachacha, the ball-shaped heavenly lightning quickly fell like a meteor that streaked across the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. It smashed into the place where Huang Yi's wisp of white smoke disappeared. However, at this time, Huang Yi had already been saved by Xiaohua and entered the cycle of reincarnation. Who could the heavenly lightning strike? Boom! A loud sound resounded in Xiaohua's mind. Although Huang Yi disappeared, the aura of swallowing the Buddha's Sarira was still present. Huang Yi's lightning tribulation naturally fell on the location of Xiaohua's Buddha's Sarira. Whoosh! That ball-shaped heavenly lightning was like a mystical brush that touched Xiaohua's Naiwen Palace. In an instant, the dazzling golden Buddha's Sarira rapidly formed from Xiaohua's Naiwen Palace. Moreover, Huang Yi's lightning tribulation was the lightning tribulation of a 10,000-year ghost cultivator. It far surpassed the lightning tribulation that Xiaohua's phoenix body experienced last time. After the 1-foot-tall Buddha's Sarira was formed, it only paused for a moment before it once again grew upwards like a bamboo shoot after the rain. It only stopped when it was about 2 feet tall. But even so, the heavenly lightning still lingered above the Buddha's Sarira. Between each lightning bolt, there was a golden liquid that formed and spread over the Buddha's Sarira. Thus, as the golden liquid increased, it gradually flowed and gathered at the foot of the Buddha's Sarira. It was also the place where Xiaohua had obtained the 2 Sariras. When the golden liquid gathered enough, a second-rank golden lotus throne gradually formed under the Buddha's Sarira. This time, Xiaohua couldn't help but moan. However, the moan this time wasn't a moan of pain. Instead, it was a kind of itchy and comfortable moan that made his entire body feel like it was about to float. This kind of carefree and unrestrained comfort was something that none of Xiaohua's previous joys could compare to. Perhaps it could really describe Xiaohua's current feelings. When the 2-foot-long Buddha's Sarira was formed, the second-rank golden lotus throne was also formed. That purple heavenly lightning also disappeared. Because Huang Yi's aura had already completely disappeared, the lightning tribulation naturally also dissipated. The roof of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall was facing a part of the sky. In that part of the sky, the dark clouds were disappearing and the dawn was gradually appearing. Even the pouring rain was gradually stopping. Xiaohua's Buddha's Sarira, at this moment, had already appeared. Its eyes were filled with indescribable benevolence, as if it had seen through all the sufferings of the world and the hardships of the human world. Moreover, the golden color of the entire Buddha's sarira was clearly thicker than before. However, this thick golden body still had many areas that were not clear. Xiaohua knew that this was the reason why he still hadn't completely cultivated that exquisite leaf scripture. Bing! The Buddha's sarira slightly opened its mouth and spat out a large Bing word from its mouth. It was precisely on the corpse of a cultivator. However, a wisp of green smoke could be seen gradually coming out from the corpse. Immediately after, from outside the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall's door, another soul suddenly and leisurely flew in. It was precisely the soul of that cultivator that was scared away by the evil spirit that was controlled by the ghost cultivator from before. Excellent! Xiaohua sighed. The Buddha's sarira opened its mouth again and hit that soul. Many thanks, Venerable One. That soul turned into a wisp of white smoke. It put its palms together and once again entered the cycle of reincarnation. The second divine ability of Buddhism, so that's how it is. It's soul summoning. The corner of Xiaohua's mouth contained a smile. His eyes also contained a faint benevolence. All of you wait a moment. Xiaohua flew up and looked at the dumbstruck Xue Xue and the others. He took out the Buddha's sarira and summoned the souls of all the cultivators that had died in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Only after he transcended did he descend. Many thanks, Venerable One. Huang Tianle's face was abnormally respectful. He brought Huang Mang, Yang Yu, and the surviving disciples of Tianmen Mountain's Huang family to all kneel on the ground. Excellent! Xiaohua blurted out, you all don't need to call me Venerable One. Although I have Buddhism's divine ability, I am still a cultivator in front of you all. You can just call me fellow Taoist. I don't dare. Huang Tianle didn't get up. Tianmen Mountain's Huang family has been cursed for several tens of thousands of years. Moreover, it was just about to be exterminated. Now, it is in the hands of Venerable One. Venerable One is my Tianmen Mountain's Huang family's eternal benefactor. We don't dare to neglect our benefactor. Hee, Xiaohua laughed and said, didn't Senior Huang Yi say it clearly? She wasn't willing to exterminate you all because of her benevolence. Don't put this merit on my head. Chapter 1957. Huang Tianle smiled bitterly. He knew clearly that Huang Yi had the intention of exterminating the Huang family today. If he couldn't avoid the lightning tribulation, the Huang family would disappear. If Xiaohua didn't appear, the Huang family would have already ceased to exist. Not to mention what Huang Yi would do before he disappeared, the ghost cultivator alone was enough to turn Tianmen Mountain into a ghost town. Even if Huang Yi's resentment didn't dissipate, Tianmen Mountain wouldn't be peaceful in the future. I naturally know. In the future, fellow Xiao. Forget it, this is an act of gratitude from Tianmen Mountain. There's no need to tell fellow Xiao in detail. Huang Tianle smiled apologetically. All of you get up. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, the fact that I have a Buddhist cultivation cannot be revealed. I will have to trouble everyone to let me cast a spell to eliminate it. I understand. Huang Tianle stood up and nodded calmly. He waved his hand at the Huang family disciples and everyone sat down cross-legged. We will also wait for fellow Taoists to cast the spell. Senior Brother Xiao, please do it. Everyone said in unison as they sat upright in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Xiaohua. Xue Xue also smiled and said, I will also ask Xiaohua to cast the spell. You don't need to do it, right? Xiaohua was stunned and said, I didn't plan to hide it from you. I just didn't have the chance to use it. I believe in Xiaohua, and Xiaohua will also believe in me. Xue Xue smiled and said, however, Xiaoyu continent is where the Taoist sect is at its peak. Many seniors have wonderful spells. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will protect this secret. But sometimes, even if I lose my life, the secret may not be able to be protected. Yes, I understand. Xiaohua nodded silently. It was just as Xue Xue said. The soul-searching technique could easily find his secret from her soul. Rather than letting Xue Xue bear this risk, it was better to directly eliminate it. Moreover, whether it was Lan Jingming or Huang Yi, it was because of hatred. That hatred could actually last for tens of thousands of years. Xiaohua absolutely wouldn't allow his slight negligence to bring any trouble to Xue Xue. Fortunately, although hatred can be engraved in people's hearts for 10,000 years, love can also be engraved in the bones. Huang Yi's love for Yu Zhongquan has lasted for so long, it really makes people sigh with emotion. Xiaohua's heart was somewhat indescribably glad. Inside Huang Yi's crimson mark, other than her experience as a spectral cultivator over the past tens of thousands of years, there were also a lot of strange and vicious secret arts. Not all of them belonged to her. Most of them had been cultivated by the wraiths in the past, including spells and techniques to erase memories. Xiaohua was a Dao sect member and a cultivator. Therefore, there was a 99% chance that he wouldn't be able to use these things. Therefore, he first looked at the memory-erasing secret technique. After pondering for a long time, he began to use it on the people in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. By the time he finished using everyone, it was already close to noon. Although Xiaohua's cultivation wasn't shallow, he still felt somewhat exhausted. Looking at everyone who was sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed, Xiaohua bitterly smiled and clapped his hands. A clear clap rang out, and everyone in the hall was startled awake. Fellow Taoist Xiao. Huang Tianle was the first to jump up from the ground. It seemed like he didn't want to die at all. He stepped forward and bowed. Fellow Taoist, thank you for helping my Huang family's ancestor. If it wasn't for your help, my ancestor would have definitely been devoured by the wraiths and wouldn't have been able to protect my Tianmen Mountain's Huang family. Alas, it's a pity that this Zhao's cultivation isn't enough. Xiaohua sighed. Killing that wraiths was all due to your ancestor's strength. This Xiao could only help a little. Furthermore, your ancestor was seriously injured and has already dissipated. Even so, this Huang is already extremely grateful. Huang Tianle anxiously said, I really didn't expect that Ancestor Huang Yi would actually throw away all of her previous hatred towards my Huang family and even protect my Tianmen Mountain. Now, she even gave up the opportunity to enter the cycle of reincarnation and perish together with the wraiths. My Huang family has really let her down too much. Yes, she's truly a great woman. Xiaohua sighed emotionally. And she's also a rarely seen infatuated woman. Xue Xue also echoed, I hope that the fishermen on the cold river will stop fishing for cabbages in the future and let her live leisurely in the cold river. Alas, Tianmen Mountain's Huang family has experienced so many calamities. In the future, they'll probably be able to once again display their elegance on the Xiaoyu continent with a new appearance. Xiaohua looked up at the roof of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall and sighed emotionally. Let's borrow fellow Taoist Zhao's auspicious words. That should be the case. Huang Tianle was in a great mood, however, this matter was done by the younger generation. I'm afraid I won't be able to see it. Soon after, Huang Tianle's heart moved and he cupped his hands. Fellow Taoist Zhao's kindness towards my Tianmen Mountain is truly as great as a mountain. In the future, my Tianmen Mountain will definitely erect a merit tablet for fellow Taoist and offer incense to him day and night. There's no need. Xiaohua stared blankly and hurriedly waved his hand. This Xiao seems to be living very well. If I don't do this, this Huang would be ashamed to face fellow Taoist and my ancestor. Huang Tianle said resolutely, do as you wish. Xiaohua was helpless. In addition, fellow Taoist Xiao, this Huang has a presumptuous request. If it was a normal day, Xiaohua would have already said, since it's a presumptuous request, then don't say it. However, at this time, Huang Tianle had just mentioned the merit tablet. How could he refute? He could only smile bitterly and say, fellow Taoist Huang, this is a trap for this Xiao. Fellow Taoist Xiao, this Huang is doing this for the sake of Tianmen Mountain. At the same time, it's also beneficial to fellow Taoist Xiao. Huang Tianle said in a low voice, fellow Taoist Xiao, please stay for a few days. This Huang will discuss it with Jean Eyre later and then tell fellow Taoist Xiao in detail. Alright. Xiaohua flicked his sleeves and said, just prepare a quiet room for this Xiao. Huang Tianle nodded and ordered the Huang family disciples standing beside him. Just as Huang Tianle was talking to Xiaohua, Huang Mang had already arranged for the surviving Huang family disciples to gather the other Tianmen Mountain disciples and clean up the mess in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Xiaohua had already removed the rabbit array. Yu Qian, Chang Lihao and the others were together. At this moment, Yu Qian stepped forward and bowed. Fellow Taoist Xiao, it was all thanks to fellow Taoist's protection last night that I was able to survive. Ehe, you are too polite. This is all fellow Taoist Yu's fortune. Xiaohua laughed. However, Yu Qian insisted, I understand very well. Furthermore, I have already promised fellow Taoist Xiao last night. Today, I will tell fellow Taoist Xiao everything I know to thank fellow Taoist Xiao for saving my life. After that, he turned around and said to Huang Tianla, Fellow Taoist Huang, please use the quiet room. Fellow Taoist Yu, please wait for a moment. This old man's body is no longer the same as before. After this disciple is ready, this old man will personally lead you there. Huang Tianla smiled bitterly. No rush, no rush. Yu Qian smiled and said. Xiaohua took this opportunity to wave his hand at Chang Lihao and the others, indicating for them to come over. Senior brother Xiao. Chang Lihao and the others really admired this person who called himself senior brother. This was a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect, and his divine ability was so powerful. This is the token of your Mo Cloud Village. Take it. Xiaohua flicked his hand and took out the token of the guest elder of Mo Cloud Village. He smiled and said, This matter is already over. This Xiao has also given you the artifact. This is the end of my position as a guest elder. What are your plans? Are you going to stay here for a few days or go back directly? Chapter 1958. Senior Martial Brother Xiao. Chang Lihao took the token and said with a bitter smile, Since you have taken the token, you will be the guest elder of Mo Yun Village. If I take it back, I will be scolded by the patriarch. Ha, Xiaohua said with a smile, if this Xiao takes your Mo Cloud Village to heart, then even if I don't have this token, I can still help. If I don't take your Mo Cloud Village to heart, then isn't having this token the same as not having it? Little friend Chang, fellow Xiao is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. Without the permission of the sect, he can't be a guest elder of other families. Fellow Xiao took your token as a game. Because of this token, he gave Mo Yun Village the sparrow drink of the Huang family. If you are too entangled, not only will it be bad for Mo Yun Village, it will also be bad for fellow Xiao. Huang Tianla quickly explained. There is such a thing? Xiaohua was surprised. He naturally didn't know about this. However, he didn't want to be a guest elder of Mo Yun Village. Yes, I understand. Chang Lihao's face turned red. He naturally remembered that Xiaohua reported his origin last night and was afraid that Huang Yi would cause trouble for Mo Yun Village. Then, Chang Lihao took the token and looked at Chang Limin and the others. He said, We have received benefits from Sky Gate Mountain. Naturally, we can't go there easily. Also, we are juniors. We will stay at Sky Gate Mountain for a few days. Sky Gate Mountain may have a shortage of disciples, but we will follow Senior Huang's orders. Great. Huang Tianla clapped and said, Mo Yun Village is lucky to have disciples like you who know when to stop. Sky Gate Mountain will join hands with Mo Yun Village. While they were talking, a disciple came over to report that the quiet room had been prepared, so Huang Tianla personally led Xiaohua and the others to the quiet room. Before Xiaohua left, he used his divine sense to look at Huang Mengxiang who was still sleeping. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with her, he felt relieved and left. After arriving at the quiet room, Yu Qian and Xiaohua went in first. After the time of a meal, the two of them came out. Yu Qian's face was filled with excitement while Xiaohua had a slight frown. Fellow Taoist Xiao, this is my greatest wish, and also my hope. I've never told anyone about this before. If fellow Taoist is interested, I hope you can lend me a hand. My request is just a little bit, fellow Taoist Yu, please be at ease. This Xiao has always been a man of his word. Just as I said earlier, if this Xiao has the chance, I will definitely send you a message. Xiaohua said with a slight nod. Many thanks, fellow Taoist Xiao. Yu Qian was overjoyed. He actually bowed and expressed his thanks. Soon after, Yu Qian bid farewell to Xiaohua and the others and left Tianmen Mountain with his disciples. All right, fellow Taoist Xiao, fellow Taoist Shui, you can rest here. Huang Tianla smiled apologetically and said, Tianmen Mountain is in chaos now. I still have to do this one last time. Please go, fellow Taoist Huang. Xiao Hua straightened his face and cupped his hands. I await fellow Taoist Huang's summons. Alas, fellow Taoist Xiao is truly righteous. Huang Tianle couldn't help but say this again. Tianmen Mountain had undergone a great change, so there were bound to be thieves who coveted it. Furthermore, Xiao Hua displayed his invincible might last night. Since he wasn't in a hurry to leave, those thieves definitely wouldn't dare to rashly come to Tianmen Mountain. For Tianmen Mountain, which only had peak stage aura refining cultivators, this was definitely another favor. Although Xiao Hua didn't say it, how could Huang Tianle not know? After Huang Tianle left, Xiao Hua and Xue entered the quiet room and activated the restriction on the quiet room again. After looking at it again and again, they still weren't at ease, so they set up their rabbit formation again. Only then did they sit down and look at Xue, whose face was serene but whose eyes were filled with exhaustion. Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Wife, what is written in this jade slip of yours? Why can't you let your husband know now?" Xue's face reddened and she whispered, "If I let you know, then I will definitely let you know. If I don't let you know, then what? Then it's not time yet. It's useless for you to ask too much." Xiao Hua shook his head slightly. "Although you and I haven't dual cultivated, our hearts are connected and our feelings are deep. What is there that can't be said? You're making your husband suspicious by hiding things like this." Xue's face became flustered. She lightly gritted her teeth and said, "This lowly concubine will swear a heart oath right now. There's absolutely, don't." Xiao Hua was also flustered. He quickly clapped his hands, and a gust of wind blocked Xue's mouth. He quickly said, "There's no need to swear a heart oath. I'm just casually asking. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Don't worry, darling Xiao." Xue smiled and said, "You'll know the contents of the jade slip sooner or later." "I know." Xiao Hua looked at Xue with a smile. "You're also tired. If you want to sleep for a while, then sleep. With your husband here to protect you, you'll be safe." Xue was really tired. Last night was really too exciting. Wave after wave, until Huang Yi appeared in the end. Xue's body was in the middle of it all. Whether it was her mind or body, she was exhausted. At this time, when she heard Xiao Hua mention it, she couldn't help but yawn. She walked to Xiao Hua's side and lay down. She muttered, "If this lowly concubine sleeps, I won't sleep forever like Huang Mengxiang, right? How can that be? Even if you don't wake up, your husband will definitely wake you up in your dreams." Xiao Hua couldn't help but pinch Xue's nose and said, "And then darling Xiao, go ahead and cultivate. This lowly concubine will sleep for a while." Xue whispered a few words. She felt her face become stiff and she gradually fell asleep. "AI, it's been hard on you." Looking at Xue's sleeping appearance, Xiao Huan naturally knew that Xue was worried about him last night. He couldn't help but feel guilty. But if he wasn't here last night, if he didn't step forward bravely, who would know the final outcome? How could a pitiful female ghost like Huang Yi reincarnate? Xiao Hua's space rumbled. Under the starry sky of the heavenly Tao, the hand of karma shook again. Xiao Hua's face was filled with joy. He immediately entered his space and carefully comprehended the way of karma. This continued for more than 10 days. Xiao Hua sat cross-legged, his face devoid of joy or worry. He seemed to be cultivating, but there was not the slightest fluctuation of magic power on his body. It was the same situation as when he comprehended the heavenly Tao. The only difference was that Xiao Hua's body did not fade away. He sat there like a mortal, breathing normally. In the way of karma, everyone was an ant, but it was also real. All cultivation, all realms were void. A summoning talisman flew in from outside the quiet room. It hovered outside the rabbit array for a long time before quietly stopping in midair. Xiao Hua suddenly opened his eyes and smiled at Xue, who was looking at him curiously, and said, "Hee, you actually took more than 10 days to send a summoning talisman. Fellow Taoist Huang is really patient." "I didn't disturb your cultivation, did I?" Xue carefully asked. Since the last time she used her hand to touch Xiaohua's body while he was cultivating, although it didn't bring any trouble to Xiaohua, Xue still felt uneasy in her heart. At this time, she couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Fiyo. Xiaohua pulled Xue's hand, removed the rabbit array, and opened the restriction of the quiet room. Outside the quiet room, there were only 3 people. One was Huang Tianle, one was Huang Mang, and the last one was naturally Huang Mengxiang. Xiaohua's gaze fell on Huang Tianle. He couldn't help but feel a bit sad. Huang Tianle had been gone for more than 10 days, and he seemed to have completely changed. Not only was he all skin and bones, his face was full of wrinkles. His white hair, his trembling body, and the walking stick in his hand all showed that he had already reached the end of his life. Fellow Taoist Huang, Xiaohua quickly cupped his hands and said, "I've been waiting for several days. Does fellow Taoist Huang have any instructions for me?" Huang Tianle quickly returned the greeting. It was very difficult. Xiaohua quickly supported him and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Huang, you don't need to be so polite. Alas, I'm already an old man without any magic power. I'm indebted to Taoist Xiao for thinking so highly of me and even calling me fellow Taoist." Huang Tianle sighed and said, "How would this old man dare to order Taoist Xiao? Fellow Taoist Huang, just call me fellow Taoist. Don't call me Taoist, I can't afford it." Xiaohua said very sincerely, "Since it's like this old man will still call you fellow Taoist." Huang Tianle nodded. "I've called you that my whole life. I really can't change it all of a sudden. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please." Seeing that Huang Tianle actually didn't talk in this quiet room, Xiaohua knew that the matter Huang Tianle wanted to talk to him about was very confidential. However, after thinking about it, he was only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Although the magic power he displayed was very profound, his opponent was at most at the early stage of foundation establishment. Huang Tianle couldn't possibly covet him? Or perhaps, thinking of this, Xiaohua unconsciously slanted his eyes slightly and looked at Huang Mengxiang, who was supporting Huang Tianle. He secretly said, "This little girl couldn't have told Huang Tianle everything that happened in her dream, right? But what happened in her dream, even I don't know. She can't just blame me because of this, right? Perhaps she wants to entrust Tianmen Mountain to me?" Xiaohua made an even bolder guess. However, he knew that this was impossible. After all, he was an outsider. 10 days ago, Huang Tianle still didn't know who he was. He was also a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. Entrusting Tianmen Mountain to him was the same as gifting Tianmen Mountain to the Imperial Thunder sect. This young master is only at the early stage of foundation establishment. I can't bear such a heavy responsibility. Xiaohua shook his head slightly and stopped thinking about it. Huang Tianle was now an old man with 1 foot in the grave and couldn't fly. Moreover, it seemed that because he wanted to see more of Tianmen Mountain scenery and stay here for a while, Huang Tianle didn't urge Huang Mang, Huang Mengxiang, and the others to fly. He just wandered around the beautiful scenery bit by bit. The Huang family's foundation was indeed extraordinary. 10 days ago, only the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall was destroyed by the lightning tribulation. The other places were safe and sound. Moreover, Huang Yi and that ghost cultivator only killed the people around the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. The ordinary disciples of the Huang family and even the family members who didn't have any magic power were not hurt. At this time, what Xiaohua and Xue saw was different from the first time Huang Tianming led them. After passing through several gardens and avoiding people, they came to an extremely barren place. Chapter 1959. Lush green grass flourished in this barren land, reaching the height of half a person. All kinds of withered old trees could be found everywhere, all of them lying horizontally, with withered branches sticking diagonally into the air. A wave of gloomy and cold air blew towards the face. "Fellow Taoist Xiao," Huang Tianle said slowly, "I've been cultivating since I was young. Although I'm not as outstanding as Tianming, I'm still considered one of the few people in the withered Huang clan. Once I was able to fly with the help of the yellow talisman, I no longer walked peacefully. Whether it was leaving Tianmen Mountain or inside Tianmen Mountain, I always flew and never walked. Presumably, fellow Taoist Xiao is also like this, right?" Xiao Hua was very surprised by Huang Tianle's words. He smiled and said, I'm also like this. Why would I walk when I can fly? Hee, fellow Taoist Xiao, I used to think like this too. However, since I couldn't fly and could only walk a few days ago, I realized that sometimes people still have to have their feet firmly planted on the ground. Walking on the ground more often, that kind of steadfast feeling far surpasses the carefree feeling of flying. Grandfather? Huang Mingxiang smiled and said, Senior Xiao is now unsheathing his flying sword and showing off his sharpness. I can't compare to you who's experienced the vicissitudes of life for more than 100 years. When people get old, they talk too much. They always feel that their own understanding is a treasure and hope that others can share it with them. If there's anything wrong with what I said, fellow Taoist Xiao, please don't blame me. Huang Tianle smiled and pointed at the barren land. There was a courtyard near the foot of the mountain and beside the river. He said, This is Ancestor Huang Yi's old residence. This is Senior Huang Yi's old residence? Xiao Hua said in surprise, It's been several tens of thousands of years, but it's still here. This place is protected by a formation. Every 4 or 5 years, someone comes to clean it. Huang Tianle stood still and said in disappointment, Moreover, there's often a cold wind here. Apart from the person who cleans this place, very few people come here. To be honest, this was the first time I came here a few days ago. I really didn't expect this place to still be so intact. However, thinking about it, I'm afraid that Ancestor has always been here. Shui looked at the pavilion in the distance, but her eyes were blurred. She would rather believe the touching legend she had heard on the cold river than believe the tragic story Huang Yi had told her that night. Fellow Taoist Huang, could it be that you want this Xiao to see Senior Huang's old home? Xiao Hua said with a beaming smile. Huang Tianle shook his head and said, Of course it's not that simple. Please explain, fellow Taoist. Fellow Taoist Xiao, what do you think of the formation protecting Senior Huang Yi? Of course it's good. Xiao Hua said curiously, It's already been several tens of thousands of years, yet this place is still protected so well, practically unaffected by the erosion of time. This Xiao has never seen such a formation before. Fellow Taoist Xiao must already know some of the origins of my Huang family. Huang Tianle said with a smile, Back in the day, my Tianmen Mountains Huang family was an all-powerful cultivation family in the Xiaoyu continent. This kind of array can't be considered rare. Yes, exactly. Xiao Hua nodded and said, This Xiao has tasted the might of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall's Vermilion Bird Blaze Grand Array. I nearly died without a burial ground. Fellow Taoist Xiao? Don't tell me you don't want to know why an array controlled by an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator can eliminate a nascent soul cultivator? Huang Tianle suddenly said. This Xiao Hua suddenly had a bad feeling. Fellow Taoist Huang, this is, fellow Taoist Xiao, this Huang invited you to take a look at Ancestor Huang Yi's old residence. On one hand, this Huang wants Ancestor Huang Yi's spirit in heaven to bear witness to this Huang's sincerity. On the other hand, this Huang wants you to know the power of my Tianmen Mountains Huang family's array. Huang Tianle said in all seriousness, Fellow Taoist Xiao saved this Huang and even the Tianmen Mountains bloodline on the night of the lightning tribulation, don't. Fellow Taoist Huang. Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said, Senior Huang Yi has already made it clear that he has already given up on the Huang family's grievances. This Xiao is just adding fuel to the fire. The more Xiao Hua evaded, the more satisfied Huang Tianle was in his heart. He said with a smile, Then this Huang will be frank. This Huang wants to make a deal with fellow Taoist Xiao on behalf of my Tianmen Mountains Huang family. Yes, fellow Taoist Xiao, it won't involve the Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiao Hua's eyes turned rapidly. He couldn't think of Huang Tianle's words. He asked curiously, This Xiao is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. What kind of deal can't involve the Imperial Thunder Sect? It's actually quite simple. Huang Tianle said with a smile, Previously, fellow Taoist Xiao has already seen the power of the Vermilion Bird Flame Array in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. It's also because of this that many small sects don't dare to have any ideas about my Tianmen Mountain. Of course, the The 7 major cities such as Haoming City, the 3 major cultivation sects, the Imperial Thunder sect, and the Rinsing Flower sect, these large sects don't put the declining Huang family in their eyes at all. This array isn't something they can absolutely rely on. However, on the day of the lightning tribulation, that array was completely destroyed, and there's no possibility of it being repaired. This way, my Tianmen mountain has lost its reliance on fat meat, and everyone wants to take a bite out of it. Moreover, this old man is about to leave this world, and my Tianmen mountain no longer has a foundation establishment cultivator. I'm afraid that any cultivation family will want to take advantage of us. Xiao Hua frowned. If they wanted to rely on the Imperial Thunder sect, why would they make a deal with him? They can't let him marry into their family. They want him to support Tianmen Mountain? Could it be that Huang Mengxiang said something? Xiao Hua really had a guilty conscience. He couldn't help but think of those things again, and he looked at Huang Mengxiang slightly. Huang Mengxiang's expression didn't change, but he looked a little sad. Obviously, he was reluctant to let Huang Tianle pass away. On the day of the lightning tribulation, I saw that fellow Taoist Xiao also knows the Tao of Array, and his attainments are extremely high. Even my ancestor had to spend some effort to crack it. Therefore, I'm bold enough to ask fellow Taoist Xiao to help repair the defensive array of my Tianmen Mountain. Ah? Xiao Hua thought for a long time, but he didn't expect Huang Tianle to make such a request. Fellow Taoist Xiao, the spirit stones used to repair the array are all provided by my Tianmen Mountain. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to worry. Huang Tianle hurriedly said again. Also, all the Tao of array in my Tianmen Mountain can be comprehended by fellow Taoist Xiao. In other words, my Tianmen Mountain absolutely doesn't guard against fellow Taoist Xiao. This Xiao Hua was a little hesitant. He came out to experience and accompany Xue to see the sea, but he was actually asked to repair the array. He wasn't an array master. Huang Tianle saw Xiao Hua hesitating, and he was delighted. Since Xiao Hua could save Tianmen Mountain, he naturally didn't worry that Xiao Hua would covet anything from Tianmen Mountain. Moreover, he hoped that Xiao Hua would covet it. At least he still had a beautiful granddaughter. He was afraid that Xiao Hua would flatly refuse, or his Tao of array wasn't enough. Now that Xiao Hua was hesitating, what did it mean? Naturally, he had the confidence to repair the array. He was thinking. Chapter 1960. Fellow Taoist Xiao. Huang Taoist said again, actually, it's just repairing my original formation. It's enough to defend against the enemy. It's not too difficult for fellow Taoist Xiao. In addition to my Tianmen Mountains formation, the Huang family also has some. Huang Tianle quickly winked at Huang Liang. Seeing this, Huang Liang transmitted his voice. Senior Xiao, my Huang family used to control a spirit stone mine. Although it's now abandoned, we still have our own collection. Not to mention the spirit stones, we even have the jade essence for making jade talismans, and even the most basic jade talisman method. Of course, these jade talismans are incomplete. If Senior Xiao is willing, this junior is willing to give it to Senior Xiao to comprehend. Ah? Jade talismans? Xiao Hua stared blankly. He had absolutely never thought that this ruined Huang family would actually have such a rare and attractive item. However, after thinking about it, it was possible. Since they controlled a spirit stone mine, they were considered rich. Since they had the jade essence, it was possible to obtain the jade talisman refining method. Xiaolang? Xue spoke. Senior Huang Yi was alone for tens of thousands of years, but the main culprit was the Immortal Alliance. We can't criticize the Immortal Alliance, but for the innocent Huang family, shouldn't we make up for Senior Huang? In this way, won't Senior Huang Yi's sin be reduced? So that she'll suffer less in the underworld? Amen? Xiao Hua nodded. Although he had suffered a lot when he transcended Huang Yi, the returns were also remarkable. Not to mention that he had cultivated 2 feet of Buddha's Saraira, just the scarlet imprint that Huang Yi had given him already contained many things. That was an inheritance that was similar to the path of ghost. If he could do something more for the Huang family, he would also be happy. As I said, Senior Xiao will definitely agree. Huang Mengxiang, who had always been gentle, couldn't help but reveal his true colors. He jumped up and clapped his hands. Cough cough. Huang Tianle smiled apologetically and said, "Thank you for your kindness, fellow Taoist Xiao. However, if possible, when fellow Taoist Xiao is repairing the formation, can Xiang watch from the side?" Huang Tianle's fox tail finally showed itself. He took out the Heavenly Gate Mountains array, and even took out the Jade Talisman refining method that was almost extinct in the Dawn Rain continent. Naturally, it was impossible for him to just help Xiao Hua repair the array. His true purpose was to let Huang Mengxiang practice the array. Of course, if there's anything Xiang doesn't understand, I hope fellow Taoist Xiao can give me some pointers. Huang Tianle smiled apologetically. Of course, if it's the secret inheritance of the Imperial Thunder Sect, fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't need to pay attention to it. However, according to what this Huang knows, the Imperial Thunder Sect doesn't seem to specialize in formations, so this Huang made this deal with fellow Taoist Xiao in private. Seeing that Huang Tianle had considered everything clearly, Xiao Hua didn't refuse anymore. He nodded and said, "Since it's a deal and fellow Huang has taken out such high sincerity, I really can't think of any reason to refuse." "Great." Huang Tianle clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Xiao is indeed a straightforward person. It is my great fortune to have met fellow Taoist Xiao. Please, while I still have some time, quickly explain the general situation of the Tianmen Mountains formation to fellow Taoist Xiao. And, fellow Taoist Huang, please." Xiao Hua didn't hold back and raised his hand. As if he already knew that Xiao Hua would agree, Huang Tianle had already prepared a quiet room in a very secretive place in the Tianmen Mountain. Inside the quiet room, the same jade slips, formation plates, formation flags, and other things were all prepared. When Xiao Hua entered the quiet room, Shui, in order to avoid arousing suspicion, cultivated in another quiet room. Huang Tianle very familiarly picked up a jade slip and handed it to Xiao Hua, saying, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, this is the general outline of the Tianmen Mountains array." The Tianmen Mountains array was set up by a gold core realm ancestor when the Tianmen Mountain was at its peak. He spent a lot of money to invite another great master who was proficient in formations to set it up. These jade slips were all left behind by the great master. Unfortunately, the talents of my Huang family have withered, and no one can understand them, let alone repair them. This Huang originally wanted to wait a few days until little Jean reached the foundation establishment stage before making arrangements. Who knew? I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist Xiao first. As he spoke, Huang Tianle bowed and saluted. Huang Tianle couldn't be so serious. This move of his was to hand over all of the Tianmen Mountains assets to Xiao Hua, and then let Xiao Hua transfer them to Huang Mengxiang. If Xiao Hua had a little bit of selfishness in this, then Huang Mengxiang's gains would be greatly reduced. This was also what Huang Tianle couldn't decide for so many days. Although Xiao Hua did a lot of things on the night of the lightning tribulation, that was a critical moment. If Xiao Hua didn't save himself, he wouldn't have been able to survive. Who could guarantee that Xiao Hua wouldn't be disloyal after gaining his freedom? However, Huang Tianle's time of death was approaching, and he couldn't not make arrangements. Xiao Hua just happened to come at the right time, and he also understood formations. If he didn't let Xiao Hua pass them on, then these jade slips could only be dead objects, and Huang Mengxiang would probably never understand them in his lifetime. Xiao Hua had already used a secret technique to erase Huang Tianle and the others' memories of him transcending Huang Yi. He had even erased the flying swords. Therefore, Huang Tianle's trust in Xiao Hua had decreased by a bit. That was why he used the formation and the incomplete method of refining the Jade Talisman to lure Xiao Hua. If he still had his previous memories, he was afraid that he would only take out the formation and not the method of refining the Jade Talisman. Xiao Hua took the jade slip and immersed his divine sense in it. At first, it was still easy, but the more he read, the tighter his frown became. Although he had studied formations before, such as the rabbit formation and the fire formation, after all, he hadn't studied formations systematically. He still had very little understanding of the Daybreak Continent's formations. How could he completely understand such a profound general outline of formations all of a sudden? Naturally, he had to ask questions one after another. How is it, fellow Taoist Xiao? Seeing Xiao Hua's frown, Huang Tianle was also apprehensive. Do you not understand? I'll let fellow Taoist Huang know. Xiao Hua didn't hide it in the slightest. I really don't understand. This general outline looks very simple, but if you carefully examine it, there are many parts that are very difficult to understand, such as, then, Xiao Hua pointed out the parts of the general outline that he didn't understand at the beginning. Good. Huang Tianle nodded. He clapped his hands again, and took out another jade slip from his bosom. He said with a smile, that was left behind by a great formation master. This jade slip was recorded by my ancestor, and it also contains the parts of the general outline that my ancestor didn't understand. I wonder if fellow Taoist Xiao has any use for it. That's great. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, your ancestor is very meticulous, and his preparations are very complete. After he finished speaking, he took the jade slip, looked at it for a moment, and said with a bitter smile, there is a lot of content inside. I'm afraid it's not something that can be comprehended in a short time. No hurry, fellow Taoist Xiao just needs to know. Huang Tianle then picked up a jade slip from the table in the quiet room, and took out another jade slip from his bosom. He said, this is the detailed explanation of the Heavenly Gate's water-cutting formation, and some of my ancestors' records about this formation. Xiao Hua took it, looked at it casually, and put it aside. Then Huang Tianle actually took out nearly a dozen different jade slips and the records of the Huang family's ancestor. Xiao Hua was a little dumbfounded. He knew that the Huang family's foundation was very deep, but he didn't expect it to be so deep. The entire Heavenly Gate mountain was actually protected by a dozen different formations of different sizes. Moreover, these dozen formations formed a large formation, and it was said that it could withstand the attacks of nascent soul and spirit-severing cultivators. After roughly explaining these dozen formations, Huang Tianle's spirit was already exhausted. He said tiredly, fellow Taoist Xiao, this is all I can say for the time being. Fellow Taoist Xiao, you can comprehend here first. If there is anything you don't understand, you can come and call me. Xiang Er will accompany you here. What I'm thinking isn't necessarily to completely repair these array formations. Just focus on protecting the Heavenly Gate Mountain's lineage according to the priority. After all, everything still depends on Xiang Er and the others. Yes, I understand. Xiao Hua nodded. He didn't send Huang Tianle off. He frowned and looked at the jade slip in his hand. According to Xiao Hua's thinking, wasn't it just laying down some formations? How long could it take? A few months, half a year would be enough. Who would have thought that he would repair the formations in Heavenly Gate Mountain for a whole 3 years? Huang Tianle had already passed away more than 20 days after Xiao Hua agreed to repair the formation. Xiao Hua was originally somewhat puzzled, because after all, the Dharma body was only a kind of divine ability. Even if it was destroyed by other people's great transcendence energy, it might not necessarily die. However, after asking Huang Tianle in private, he found out that he didn't just put his avatar into the vermilion bird blazing formation. He also put in blood essence and other things along with the avatar. This was one of the strange things about the vermilion bird blazing formation. It was Huang Tianle's last resort to protect the Huang family of Heavenly Gate Mountain. During these 3 years, Xiao Hua's main focus was naturally on the art of formations. While he was comprehending, he had also repaired nearly 10 of the dozens of large and small formations. Naturally, he told Huang Mingxiang in detail about the details of the repairs. Xiao Hua even told Huang Mingxiang about the reasons behind the repairs and the things that Huang Mingxiang did not understand. During this process, Xiao Hua recalled many things about the rabbit talisman. Although these talismans did not match the formations of Tianmen Mountain, as long as they were involved, he would tell Huang Mingxiang about them. Huang Mingxiang did not know the inside story and only thought that he had passed it on to her, so she just listened to him. There were also several other formations. First, they were too damaged. Instead of repairing them, it was better to set up new formations. Moreover, if the formation exceeded Xiao Hua's ability, he wouldn't be able to do it. Second, those formations were all local formations of Heavenly Gate Mountain. They were considered secondary, so Xiao Hua didn't put them on the schedule to repair them. As for cultivation, to be honest, Xiaohua didn't focus on the cultivation of the earth expansion technique. Instead, he focused on comprehending the tens of thousands of years of pain and loneliness that the Buddha's Saraira had obtained from Huang Yi. Although he had already experienced this feeling when he reincarnated Huang Yi, the unforgettable pain remained in Xiaohua's heart. Xiaohua was very sensitive to the preciousness of this pain. He couldn't fully comprehend it during the short period of time when he reincarnated Huang Yi. Therefore, he slowly comprehended it in his spare time while repairing the formations. Although this didn't directly improve Xiaohua's cultivation, its effects were very far-reaching. Chapter 1961. Of course, while Xiaohua was experiencing Huang Yi's pain, he also took a look at the ghost cultivation inheritance she left behind. This inheritance was really huge, so Xiaohua didn't examine it carefully at all. He only picked out the things he was interested in and could cultivate, such as the art of talismans and so on. In particular, he also found a secret technique that could attack divine sense, the soul thorn, which was the same as the Taoist sect's secret technique that Qian Diheng and the others said. 3 years, although it was a long time for mortals, for cultivators like Xiaohua, it was really short. He only had a simple understanding of some spells and had even just begun to cultivate. As for Xue, Xiaohua was really puzzled. The reason Xiaohua couldn't build his foundation was because he had to cultivate to the 18th layer of qi refining. It wasn't that he didn't make any progress. However, although Xue had been cultivating in the quiet room next to Xiaohua every day for the past 3 years, she couldn't build her foundation. If Sun Shu and Qian Diheng did indeed have an opportunity to build their foundation, Xue didn't lack it. She had already taken the Zhongyao milk and even made some progress in the hibernating thunder escape, so why couldn't she build her foundation? Perhaps building foundation was really a threshold for cultivators. Even if all the preparations were complete, without an opportunity, it was still in vain. Compared to Xue, Tianmen Mountain had changed a lot. Not to mention that those damaged formations were repaired by Xiaohua, Huang Liang and Yang Fan were suddenly attacked by an inexplicable cultivator one day. Under the pressure of a worn-out demonic spear shaft, they suddenly built their foundation, and that cultivator was inexplicably forced back by Huang Mingxiang's appearance. The appearance of 2 early-stage foundation establishment cultivators greatly increased the strength of Tianmen Mountain and also covered up the fact that Huang Mingxiang easily stepped into the 10th layer of qi refining. Huang Mingxiang was just as Huang Yi had said. He was a genius who had broken away from the art of charms. Not only did his cultivation far exceed Xiaohua's expectations, but his understanding of formations also left Xiaohua flabbergasted. Although Xiaohua was able to set up formations when he was in the qi refining stage and had his own understanding of formations, it was clear that Xiaohua had dabbled in formations before he lost his memories. However, this was Huang Mingxiang's first time coming into contact with formations. The speed of his comprehension and the precision of his formations could only prove that he was a genius. On this day, Xiaohua was standing on top of a pavilion with a triangular formation disc in his hand. Most of the runes on the formation disc were old, only about 30% of them were newly repaired. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Miss Mingxiang, if this formation disc is effective, then this 3 stars thunder formation will be repaired by us. This Xiao can be considered to have done his best." "Hee, Senior Xiao, let's not talk so much. We'll know once we try putting it in." Huang Mingxiang's face was full of joy. This formation disc was personally repaired by her under Xiaohua's guidance. She naturally wanted to see if she could succeed. Hee. Seeing Huang Mingxiang's joy, Xiaohua also faintly smiled. This girl had been following Xiaohua for the past 3 years. Perhaps because of the dream, she had a kind of attachment to Xiaohua from the bottom of her heart, a kind of emotional dependence. However, Xiaohua no longer made it clear. Although at the beginning, Huang Mingxiang had a lot of intimacy, but as time passed, Xiaohua's indifference, as well as Xiaohua's intimacy with Xue, had all been seen by her. Those seemingly frivolous actions had lessened by a lot. As for whether she understood the difference between reality and the dream, or tried her best to be a dignified person, Xiaohua didn't know. "Do it yourself." Xiaohua waved his hand and the formation disc flew into Huang Mingxiang's hand. "Humph, I'll do it myself." Huang Mingxiang seemed to be in a fit of pique. Her left hand formed a seal, and magic power gradually condensed in her hand. "Go," Huang Mingxiang lightly shouted. The seal hit the formation disc, and the formation disc emitted a fiery red brilliance. Then Huang Mingxiang pointed again, and the formation disc slowly flew down, gradually landing on the foundation of the pavilion. The foundation flashed with fluctuations of spiritual power, and the formation disc was about to merge with it. But at this moment, the fiery red brilliance on the formation disc extended, and the spiritual power became somewhat chaotic. The formation disc, which had just disappeared halfway, was completely revealed again. "Senior Xiao." Huang Mingxiang pouted and said with dissatisfaction, "Xiang Er's magic power is insufficient, I can't embed the formation disc." "Hee." Xiao Hua pointed his finger and sent out his magic power. The formation disc slightly shook, and effortlessly merged with it. Following a wave of spatial fluctuations, the entire foundation returned to its original appearance. "Senior Xiao, it's not that Xiang Er's cultivation in formations is insufficient, but that my magic power is insufficient." Huang Mingxiang was still a little angry. If this junior also built his foundation, this formation would definitely be easy to fix. "Hee, what you said makes sense." How could Xiao Hua argue with her? He only smiled and said, "This Xiao wants you to try it yourself because I want to tell you that all kinds of array formations rely on magic power, and magic power relies on cultivation. For tens of thousands of years, the Huang clan has had some seniors who only had magic power but didn't understand array formations. There were also seniors who knew array formations but didn't have magic power, so no one has been able to repair this array formation. Now that you have learned the way of formations, but your magic power is still insufficient. This is your weakness, and it is also the weakness of the Huang family of Tianmen Mountain. You must not throw away your magic power and focus on the details just because you have a rough understanding of formations." After Xiao Hua finished speaking, he suddenly laughed involuntarily. Why did this statement sound so similar to his master's nagging in his ears? "Senior Xiao, how can Xiang Er forget?" Huang Mingxiang pouted and said, "Before my grandfather died, he repeatedly told me that if Xiang Er didn't build his foundation, Xiang Er must not be allowed to leave Tianmen Mountain. Besides, my Tianmen Mountain Huang family has a gold core stage master, hee, it's not as bad as Senior Xiao said." "I'm just saying you know." Xiao Hua waved his hand. Tianmen Mountain was glorious, and it had a deeper foundation than Shanghuaming and Hundred Herbs Gate. He didn't need to know so much. "Okay, the formation disc has been placed. This is the formation flag. In addition, I have also passed on the chant to control the formation without the formation flag. You can activate this formation," Xiao Hua said again. He patted his hand, took out a small red flag from his storage bag, and handed it to Huang Mingxiang. Huang Mingxiang took the small flag and said with a smile, "The chant is based on magic power. I'm afraid Xiang Er can't do it. It's better to use the formation flag." With that, Huang Mingxiang closed his eyes and chanted in the air. He held the small flag in his left hand and made a gesture with his right hand. First, he hit the small flag, then he hit it in the air. Then, he shook his hand as if he was lifting something heavy. With the wave of the small flag, a wisp of flame was born from the tip of the small flag and shot into the air. On the top of the pavilion, there was a swish sound, like the spring breeze blowing through the willow branches. Layers of magic power spread from one pavilion to another, and then from that pavilion to a rockery, and then from the rockery to the distant lake. Chapter 1962. Rise. Huang Mingxiang lightly reprimanded. A few drops of sweat seeped out from the tip of her jade-like nose. She poured all of her magic power into the formation flag. With a rumbling sound, it was as if a layer of clothing was peeled off in front of her. A layer of tiny flames the size of a thumb suddenly appeared where her magic power extended. Then, it suddenly disappeared, and a wisp of flame was quickly absorbed into Huang Mingxiang's formation flag. Pa pa pa, Xiao Hua's clapping sound came from beside Huang Mingxiang. "Not bad, this formation should be completely repaired. Miss Mingxiang's contribution cannot go unnoticed." Hehe, Xiaohua, just call me Mingxiang. Huang Mingxiang giggled. Suddenly, she blinked and said with a smile. Xiaohua smiled slightly and ignored her words. He just said, now this. Just as Xiaohua was speaking, a communication talisman flew over and stopped beside Huang Mingxiang. Huang Mingxiang glanced at Xiaohua and said with a smile, Xiaohua, please speak. Maybe it's a communication talisman from my father. Take a look first. Xiaohua stood with his hands behind his back and no longer spoke. Huang Mingxiang was helpless. She pinched open the communication talisman and heard Huang Mang's voice. Xiang Er, Jing Qifeng, Jiang Yu Schoolchang, and Qi Mingzong each brought their own disciples and a few early-stage foundation establishment cultivators to help. They are challenging in front of Tianmen Mountain's formation. You should come with Senior Xiao. Sai, hearing this, Xiaohua was somewhat speechless. Long before Huang Tianla died, he had already sent out disciples to explain what had happened in the Tianmen Mountain to the deceased cultivator sects and families. He had also brought corresponding gifts to them. In fact, Tianmen Mountain didn't need to prepare an explanation, but Huang Tianla had to be so careful in order to prevent some sects from using this as an excuse to make things difficult for the Huang family. But in this world, there was no shortage of people who would kick a man when he was down. In the first year, the sects and families were still watching. Later, when they saw Huang Tianla's death, some cultivation families couldn't sit still. In the next 2 years, such things happened several times, but they were all dispersed by Xiaohua and driven away one by one. Everyone didn't know Xiaohua's origin, and when Xiaohua faced the enemy, he also used befuddlement, so he was very mysterious. These families couldn't figure out the details and began to watch again. Now that the cultivation families didn't dare to make a move, these cultivation sects came out. Aunt's Huang Mingxiang was a bit. She looked at Xiaohua with a bitter face. She said, Xiaohua, Senior Xiao of course. Xiaohua looked at the formation in front of him and said, you go by yourself. This formation doesn't look right. I'll stay here and carefully repair it. I can't fail fellow Taoist Huang's trust. This? Huang Mingxiang was at a loss for words. She understood that Huang Tianla's arrangements before his death didn't include Xiaohua helping Tianmen Mountain to defend against the enemy. In the previous few times, because Tianmen Mountain's formation hadn't been completed, and Huang Liang and Yang Fan hadn't reached the foundation establishment stage, Xiaohua volunteered to go out when the Huang family was at their wits' end. Huang Mingxiang had seen Xiaohua's means before, and he was definitely more powerful than Huang Tianla. Now that she saw Xiaohua refuse, she naturally had nothing to say. All right, then this junior will go and help father and mother. Huang Mingxiang sniffled as if she was about to cry. The people who came this time didn't come with good intentions. They are all cultivators from cultivation sects, and their means are more powerful than my father's. Senior, please repair the formation here first. When Junior and Mother are killed by them, please help us collect our corpses. It's best to bury my father, mother, and grandfather together. Let Junior be buried near ancestor Huang Yi's old residence, so that Junior can accompany my ancestor after death. Let her see that the Senior Xiao she spared actually didn't help Junior. Okay. Xiaohua waved his hand angrily, patted his hand, and took out a few formation flags from his storage bag. He said, I'll go now, okay? I knew Xiaohua was the best. Huang Mingxiang immediately had an expression that turned from tears to laughter. Remember, if you call me that again, I'll leave immediately. I definitely won't make a move. Xiaohua scolded with a straight face. Unfortunately, Xiaohua's face was only 18 or 19 years old. Even though he had been experiencing the pain that Huang Yi had inflicted on him for the past 3 years, these changes couldn't completely change Xiaohua from the inside out. Looking at Xiaohua's face that was even younger than her own, Huang Mingxiang slightly stuck out her tongue and coughed twice. Yes, Junior will follow Senior Zhao's orders. Seeing the secret joy in Huang Mingxiang's eyes, Xiaohua knew that this girl wasn't really obedient. He snorted from his nose and waved his hand, causing a few formation flags to fall in front of her. First, take some medicinal pills and restore your magic power. The great formation of Tianmen Mountain has already been set up. You go and give these formation flags to your father and mother. I have already taught them how to use it. The three of you should be able to block those cultivators outside Tianmen Mountain. Huang Mingxiang replied crisply. She patted her hand and a few medicinal pills were also sent into her mouth. Soon after, Xiao Hua and Huang Mingxiang flew over many pavilions and flew out of Tianmen Mountain. However, the current Tianmen Mountain was somewhat different from the Tianmen Mountain that Xiao Hua and Xue Xue came from. The originally beautiful scenery that could be seen at a glance was now covered by an extremely thin mist. This mist covered both sides of Tianmen Mountain, making it look like an immortal mountain. However, it was this light mist that blocked the group of foundation establishment cultivators above the cold river. This group of cultivators was about 6 or 7 people. Each of them didn't look young and all of them had a heroic appearance. The one in the lead was wearing a white Taoist robe and even had a horsetail whisk in his hand. His face was like a full moon, and he looked like an expert. Senior brother Yun, junior brother Xie was killed in Tianmen Mountain. A cultivator wearing a navy blue Taoist robe next to this cultivator whispered, although Tianmen Mountain's Huang Tianle later returned junior brother Xie's storage bag and other things to my Jingqi Peak, it is obvious that junior brother Xie's cultivation was at the early stage of foundation establishment. He was far from being killed by a ghost. What Huang Tianle said is definitely not true. Besides, even if what Huang Tianle said is the truth and a disciple of my Jingqi Peak died in Tianmen Mountain, even if the sect master doesn't say anything, we disciples who have a good relationship with junior brother Xie can't just let it go. We have to get justice for junior brother Xie. That's right. My River Jade sect's senior brother Chang is also like this. He died here without knowing why. The sect leader can't say anything. After all, senior brother Chang came out because of something. We can't ignore this matter. Otherwise, senior brother Chang, fellow Taoist Xie, and fellow Taoist Zhu will die in vain. Huang Tianle has a good plan. He only used some spirit stones to send us 3 sects away. Does he really think that we are those cultivation families who haven't seen the world? Another cultivator with a red face who was obviously from the Qi Mingzong said fiercely, and I don't know where he found a foundation establishment cultivator with a bewitching soul to drive away the provocation of the cultivation families. He wants to use such means to scare us disciples of the cultivation sects? Junior brother Hong Qianfei, the message talisman has been sent out for a long time. Why haven't we seen any disciples of Tianmen Mountain come out to greet us? They don't put us in their eyes, but don't they put fellow Taoist Yun Xingshan in their eyes? A thin cultivator couldn't help but complain. Fellow Taoist Yun is a cultivator at the middle stage of foundation establishment. Yun Xingshan was the cultivator from the Jingqi Peak. At this time, he was a little angry when he heard this. He snorted and said, Tianmen Mountain is a famous cultivation family tens of thousands of years ago. Except for the 3 major sects and the 7 major cities, they don't put any other sects in their eyes. What's the big deal about letting us be left out for a while in Tianmen Mountain? Senior brother Yun, the light fog of Tianmen Mountain is a little strange. The cultivator who instigated just now was Li Ming from the Jiangyu sect. At this time, he frowned and said, I heard that Tianmen Mountain will be covered by a thick fog in the morning or before the rain. It can even affect the travel of the river boats on the cold river. However, I have never heard of such a large area of light fog. It almost covers the entire Tianmen Mountain. Senior brother Li is right. Ji Shiping from the Qi Mingzong also nodded and said, I came to Tianmen Mountain dozens of years ago. At that time, I flew directly into Tianmen Mountain and didn't see any light fog here. Tianmen Mountain has been passed down for tens of thousands of years. This should be their gatekeeping array. Yun Xingshan frowned slightly and said in a low voice. Hee, senior brother Yun, we have seen the gatekeeping array, but Tianmen Mountain shouldn't have one at this time, right? Gao Fu from the Jiangyu sect smiled apologetically and said, their foundation establishment master has died long ago. Tianmen Mountain is full of Qi refinement disciples. How could they repair the broken array? Oh no. Yun Xingshan suddenly realized. Could it be Tianmen Mountain has turned to that major sect? That cultivator in camouflage is also from the three major sects? Of course. Gao Fu was also dumbfounded. I'm afraid it's the Five Elements sect, the Mechanism sect, or even the Qiqiao sect that can repair all the arrays of Tianmen Mountain, right? It could also be Haoming City. Another person said in a low voice, I heard in private that Haoming City has been interested in Tianmen Mountain for a long time. Before senior brother Zhu came, he came because he heard that no one from Haoming City came. Even if Tianmen Mountain has turned to the major sects, we won't offend anyone by asking about the details of our senior brothers, right? Yun Shingshan suddenly laughed and said, besides, if the person in the camouflage is from the three major sects or the seven major cities, would he need to upload the camouflage? I guess Tianmen Mountain can't wait to take off his clothes and write the details of this person's background on it so that others can know, right? Everyone nodded. At this moment, there seemed to be a gust of wind blowing in the faint mist above the foothills of Tianmen Mountain. A dozen cultivators flew out of the mist and bowed at the edge of the mist from afar, but they didn't go up. I'm Huang Liang of Heavenly Gate Mountain. Greetings, fellow Taoists. Huang Liang, who was the first to greet them, bowed and said, what can I do for you? Chapter 1963. Fellow Taoist Huang? You've built your foundation? Ji Shiping of Qimingzong had obviously seen Huang Mang before and said in surprise. Then he saw Yang Fan and said, fellow Taoist Yang has also built his foundation. Fellow Taoist Huang, you and your wife are really lucky to have two foundation-building cultivators in Tianmen Mountain. I wouldn't dare. My Tianmen Mountain has been in decline for too long. Now that we have two cultivators in the foundation establishment realm, fellow cultivator Ji, it really makes me feel bad. Huang Mang said with a smile, but there was a hint of pride in his tone. Ji Shiping scanned the area again with his divine sense, only to see Huang Mengxiang standing behind Huang Mang and Yang Yu, as well as a group of aura-refining disciples. He didn't see any other unusual people, especially the one they already knew was bewitched. What's wrong? Fellow Taoist Huang, aren't you going to invite us to Tianmen Mountain? Ji Shiping said with a smile. Of course, I'm here to invite you in for a chat. Huang Liang said calmly, cupping his fist and bowing. His calmness made the others hesitate. Even Yun Zhishan glanced at Ji Shiping with slight displeasure. He stepped forward and said with a smile, we won't go to Tianmen Mountain to nag fellow Taoist Huang. This is? Huang Mang smiled apologetically. This is senior brother Yun Zhishan of Jingqi Peak. Don't you know him? Ji Shiping said with a sneer. So it's senior brother Yun. Forgive me for not recognizing you. If we come to Tianmen Mountain, I'll hold a banquet to apologize and meet all of you in person. Huang Mang said with neither arrogance nor humility. Ji Shiping knew Huang Mang, so he introduced them to him. Huang Mang pretended not to know and greeted them one by one. When he finally raised his head, he was very surprised and asked thoughtfully, fellow Taoist Ji, Jingqi Peak, Jiangyu Sect, and Qimingzong came together. Is there an urgent matter? Before Ji Shiping could speak, Bai Huachu of Qimingzong sneered and said, you keep calling me fellow Taoist Ji. Do you have any respect for Qimingzong? Don't you know why we're here? Tell me, how did senior brother Zhu Feng die? What about senior brother Xie and junior brother Cheng? Were they going to die in vain at Tianmen Mountain? If you don't tell me the truth, don't even think about returning safely today. Fellow Taoist Bai, you sure talk big. Huang Liang sneered and said, fellow Taoists from the three sects have come to Heavenly Gate Mountain for this? Our Tianmen Mountain has already explained this matter in detail to your sect leader 2 years ago. The Taoist friend who died in Tianmen Mountain came here to treat my daughter, but it was not Tianmen Mountain's intention to have an accident in Tianmen Mountain. Besides, Tianmen Mountain offered a reward with a magic weapon, which was dangerous in itself. The Taoist friend who died must have been prepared in advance. The responsibility of this matter is not necessarily Tianmen Mountain's responsibility. Furthermore, Tianmen Mountain will return all the storage bags, corpses, and other things of your Taoist friend. I can't think of anything that your esteemed sect is dissatisfied with. Of course our sect leader is satisfied. Who can blame Tianmen Mountain? Bai Huachu laughed and said, however, your Tianmen Mountain dismissed us by saying that it was done by an old ghost. The sect leader didn't say anything because he was magnanimous. We are good friends of Senior Marshal Brother Zhu. If we don't come out to uphold justice, wouldn't there be no justice in this world? Would people die in vain? What my Huang family said is completely true. Many of Tianmen Mountain's disciples died, and my father and uncle also died because of it. Isn't this enough to explain the problem? That old ghost is from Tianmen Mountain. Who knows where he came from? Tianmen Mountain is dead. How can you drag others into it? Seeing that Bai Huachu began to pester endlessly, Huang Liang knew that it was useless to continue talking. He sneered and said, what do you mean, fellow Taoists? You don't come to Tianmen Mountain to sit down and talk, but you want to find justice that doesn't exist here. You're really putting me in a difficult position. I don't know what to do to make you understand. Do you still not understand what to do, fellow Taoist Huang? Bai Huachu glanced at Yun Shishan and saw that there was no special expression on his face. He simply took half a step forward and said with a smile, either show us some sincerity from Tianmen Mountain and satisfy us so that we know that what you did was not done by Tianmen Mountain, or let us take you down. At this point, Bai Huachu clapped his hands, and a rope-like magical item was thrown into the air. With the activation of his magic power, it went straight toward Huang Liang. He then shouted, Senior Brother Yun, if not now, when are you going to do it? Yun Shishan seemed to be a little hesitant, but at this time, when the others saw that Bai Huachu was the first to shed all pretense of cordiality, they threw away the little scruples in their hearts and clapped their hands. In fact, each of them had prepared a magical item long ago, and they threw it toward Yang Fan, Huang Mengxiang, and the others. Why can't we talk nicely? Yun Shishan smiled bitterly, but his hands did not slow down much. He rubbed his hands together, and rich water-based spiritual energy quickly gathered around him. Dozens of thumb-thick water swords stabbed toward the people of Tianmen Mountain. This group of sanctimonious people. How dare they call themselves disciples of a cultivation sect? They're worse than itinerant cultivators. Huang Mengxiang cursed. Itinerant cultivators don't even look for a reason to attack directly. They're really despicable. These shameless people even dare to make up a reason. They're too hypocritical. Rise. Without waiting for Huang Liang's order, Huang Mengxiang raised the small flag in his hand and shouted, Disciples, listen to my command. The several disciples behind Huang Mengxiang clapped their hands and took out their own small array flags. Go. Huang Mengxiang activated his magic power, and the small flag in his hand glowed red. On the flag, a small vermilion bird fluttered in the wind. Go. The disciples also began to chant and wave the small flag. As their magic power was rapidly absorbed by the small flag, the disciples opened their mouths and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the small flag. After the small flag absorbed the blood essence and magic power, it gave birth to an even smaller vermilion bird. They flew out with the small flag and flew toward Huang Mengxiang's small flag. Swoosh! Huang Mengxiang saw several vermilion birds flying toward him. He waved the flag even more fiercely, and the small vermilion bird also flew out. With a soft boom, the several vermilion birds merged together. Go! Huang Mengxiang pointed his finger, and the vermilion bird flew into the air. The surrounding spiritual energy was absorbed by the vermilion bird. When the vermilion bird grew several times bigger, it let out a cry and returned to Huang Mengxiang's array flag. Return. Huang Mengxiang's face lit up with joy. He quickly waved the small flag, and several clusters of fire suddenly appeared on the cold river that was originally sandwiched between Tianmen Mountain. Chapter 1964. Huang Liang was infuriated when he saw Bai Huachu unleash his magical item, which was flying toward him like a snake. Just as Huang Mengxiang had said, Bai Huachu's behavior was no different from slapping Heaven Gate Mountain in the face. Wasn't it the same as Shang Qinghe's behavior in Haoming City? While the magical item was flying, it was absorbing the surrounding natural energy. Before it could even get close, Huang Mang felt a faint restrictive force. Not daring to be careless, Huang Mang slapped his hand and took out a small flag from his storage bag. With a wave of his hand, a few wisps of pale white smoke emerged from the small flag. As soon as the smoke appeared, it quickly spread out, and in the blink of an eye, it had enveloped Huang Mang and the others. Bai Huachu's flying magical item twisted a few times, but was unable to land on the ground. However, the magical instruments of Ji Shiping and the others had also arrived. Yun Shirshan's magic also fell and smashed into the white smoke. Bang! 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 It sounded like boulders rolling down. Wife, help me quickly. Although Huang Liang could control the formation, his magic power was limited. When everyone attacked the formation, he also suffered from the backlash. Husband, don't worry. Yang Fan had already taken out the array flag. They had practiced this array many times under Xiaohua's guidance. When he saw that Huang Liang could not hold on any longer, he immediately waved the array flag, and a faint mist flew out from her array flag. However, the areas that were produced were different, and when the mist from these areas connected, they were able to block the attacks of the 6 or 7 people. Oh, this formation is really powerful. Yun Shirshan was slightly surprised. But at that moment, a few wisps of flame controlled by Huang Mingxiang appeared above the cold river. This formation can attack and defend. The Huang family of Tianmen Mountain really lives up to its reputation. Ji Shiping was also stunned when he saw the wisps of flame. However, the flame looked very small. Besides, they were above the cold river, where the spiritual energy of the water was abundant. Moreover, Yun Shirshan had a water physique and was very good at water magic. Ji Shiping and the others invited Yun Shirshan here to deal with the Huang family's fire physique. However, the development of the situation was beyond everyone's expectations. The flame controlled by Huang Mingxiang was like a spark that could start a prairie fire. As soon as it appeared, it immediately ignited the air and the ground under everyone's feet. It quickly spread and enveloped everyone from all directions. How dare you? Yun Shirshan was enraged. He didn't think that the 2 foundation establishment cultivators would only dare to defend, but Huang Mingxiang, a Qi refining junior, would actually dare to attack. Yun Shirshan waved his sleeve and a layer of white mist appeared. Like a ball of water, the mist spread out with him as the center. He did not believe that a little girl who was only at the Qi refining stage, even with the help of a formation, would be able to compete with him, who was only at the foundation establishment stage. However, what happened next easily crushed his disdain. It was like a snowflake being roasted by a flame. The mist of Cloud Shroud Mountain was ignited the moment it came into contact with the flame. Boom! The flame became even more ferocious and directly rolled over. Ah? This is Samadhi true fire? Yun Shirshan was shocked, but he never thought that even if it was Samadhi true fire, with Huang Mingxiang's cultivation, it would be impossible for her to ignite his spell. Run! Yun Shirshan knew how dangerous the situation was and did not dare to delay any longer. He waved his sleeves and a strong wind appeared. He did not dare to mix in any water element spiritual energy. Within the strong wind, a wheel-shaped magical artifact spun rapidly and flew towards the place where the flames had not yet closed. Yun Shirshan's body also flew along with the strong wind. He wanted to seize the opportunity to strike first. With a sizzling sound, the water-blue wheel of the magic tool spun vigorously in the fog, as if all the fog was sucked into the magic tool. However, the fog did not seem to be light at all. Pooh! Yun Shirshan's body flew over, and his face changed slightly. He opened his mouth and spat out a light blue bead, which quickly hit the wheel of the magic tool. Gotcha! The bead seemed to be extremely cold. When it hit the mist quickly froze, and under the attack of the magic tool, it shattered into pieces. Great! Yun Shirshan scanned the area with his divine sense and found that there was a flaw in the array. He was overjoyed and flew towards the frozen fog. But at this time, there was a boom as the Samadhi True Fire's flames came from behind the layer of ice. How dare you! Yun Shirshan was furious. He slapped his forehead and spat out a mouthful of profound qi onto the light blue bead. There was a buzzing sound, and the bead suddenly expanded and turned white. A natural water essence, smaller than a thumb, flew out from the bead. As soon as it appeared, it immediately turned into a net and rushed towards the oncoming flames. I don't know where you got this Samadhi true fire from, but you dare to be so arrogant? Who doesn't know that the Huang family of Tianmen Mountain has the bloodline of the vermilion bird? Yun Zhishan was furious. He was actually forced to use his Xiantian water essence by a little girl who was only at the qi refining stage. Even if he managed to escape from the array, he would still lose all his face. Boom! Yun Zhishan's natural water essence was also ignited by the flames. Yun Zhishan's face turned pale as he murmured, How is this possible? While he was hesitating, the flame that could burn anything jumped from the water essence to Yun Zhishan's body. Yun Zhishan couldn't do anything and screamed like a mortal. He waved his sleeves left and right as if he wanted to stop the flames. However, a strange thing happened. The flames that were about to ignite Yun Zhishan suddenly froze and floated in front of him. It was as if a powerful cultivator was trying to stop the tragedy from happening. Phew! Yun Zhishan was stunned as he looked at the flame. It was as if it was right in front of his eyes. He let out a long sigh. But in the blink of an eye, the flame jumped up again like a frightened snake. It bared its fangs and pounced on Yun Zhishan's defenseless body. Yun Zhishan let out a heart-wrenching scream. The flame was extremely overbearing. Although Yun Zhishan had a protective magical item and a few layers of light, it was almost extinguished upon contact. Boom, boom, boom. Yun Zhishan only had time to scan the area with his divine sense. Other than Yun Zhishan, the other 6 cultivators were all covered in flames. The flames were pure blue with a tinge of crimson red. Huang Mingxiang is too cruel. This was Yun Zhishan's last thought. Miss Mingxiang? What Yun Zhishan didn't know was that the moment the flame touched him, Huang Mingxiang heard Xiao Hua's voice. These people. You don't have to kill them all. Just teach them a lesson and let them know the power of Tianmen Mountain. They won't dare to come again. Senior Xiao. Huang Mingxiang naturally didn't use telepathy. She wasn't afraid at all. She turned to the source of the voice and said, Senior, you seem to have done a lot of vigilance in the past 2 years, right? But what's the effect? The number of cultivators harassing Tianmen Mountain hasn't decreased at all. Moreover, the behavior of these so-called famous sects is not as good as that of the previous cultivation families. If we don't teach them a lesson, they will probably go back and bring more powerful senior brothers. The cultivation of these people has reached the critical point of our Tianmen Mountain's resistance. If they bring out some martial uncle, how can our Tianmen Mountain deal with it? Senior Xiao, are you going to stay in Tianmen Mountain forever? Even if Senior Xiao stays in Tianmen Mountain, what about their sect masters? What if the sect masters of the 3 sects gather? What will Senior Xiao do? Senior Xiao, you might not know what Tianmen Mountain looks like in the eyes of other sects. Seemingly afraid that Xiao Hua would be angry, Huang Mingxiang immediately explained, We are now a toothless tiger. They can kill and take as they wish. If it weren't for my ancestors scattering all the things that might cause covetousness, leaving only Tianmen Mountain, I'm afraid we would have been devoured by them long ago. Now that Tianmen Mountain has a formation, what's the point of not teaching them a lesson? Senior Xiao, haven't you seen the Lan family? It's been tens of thousands of years, but they still want to kill the descendants of my Huang family. If we had paid more attention earlier, how could granduncle have been killed? Looking at the determination in Huang Mingxiang's eyes, Xiao Hua seemed to see the ghost of Huang Yi again. He couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. Forget it. Xiao Hua sighed and said softly, This is your Tianmen Mountain's formation. You are the person in charge of the formation. You decide everything. Thank you, Xiao Hua. Huang Mingxiang said softly. No one else could hear it, but Huang Mingxiang knew that Xiao Hua must have heard it. Just as Huang Mingxiang was speaking, the small flag in her hand danced again. The flame controlled by Xiao Hua jumped up again and rushed toward Yun Zhishan and the others. Although it was not as powerful as the Vermilion Bird Flame formation in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall, which could instantly kill Yun Zhishan and Shang Qinghe, This small flame was like a bone-chilling pain. It was impossible to get rid of it. It swallowed Yun Shirshan and the others bit by bit. After the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, the howling stopped. Disciples, go and take the storage pouches of these cultivators. The flame controlled by Huang Mingxiang was very small. It only destroyed the cultivators' physical bodies, but left the storage pouches intact. Yes. The Huang family disciples were overjoyed. They activated their flying talismans and entered the formation. They took the storage pouches that were supported by the formation. Father, mother, stop the formation, Huang Mingxiang said loudly. Okay. Huang Mang looked at Yang Fan with a helpless expression. The two of them put away the small flag, and the thick fog above Tianmen Mountain gradually dispersed. Behind the thick fog, Xiao Hua's tall and thin figure appeared. Senior Xiao. Huang Mang and Yang Fan didn't show any disrespect to Xiao Hua because they had already reached the foundation establishment stage. They still called him Senior and bowed. Thank you, Senior. The formation can be considered complete today. Chapter 1965. Yes, that's true. I didn't expect that these dozens of great formations would be so interconnected. If I don't repair the many formations in Tianmen Mountain, this Tianmen Great Formation won't be able to form. Xiao Hua said indifferently. However, since such a formation can stop a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, it can also trap a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Tianmen Mountain should be safe. My promise to fellow Taoist Huang can be considered fulfilled. Yes, fellow Taoist Xiao is indeed a man of his word. As Huang Liang spoke, he glanced at Yang Fan. Yang Fan reached out his hand and took out a small storage bag from his chest pocket. Then he stepped forward respectfully and said with a smile, "This is what my father promised Senior a long time ago. My husband said that he would give it to Senior, but I was afraid that Senior would take it. Alas, it's all my fault for measuring the heart of a gentleman with my own mean measure. I hope Senior can understand." It's fine. Xiao Hua reached out and took it. He didn't look at it and put it in his arms. I've been comprehending formations for several years and didn't have time to look at this thing. It's just right for me to give it to you. Senior Xiao, I'll hold a banquet in Vermilion Bird Palace tonight to thank Senior for your merit. Please be punctual. Huang Mang smiled apologetically. Vermilion Bird Palace has also been repaired? Unfortunately, the Vermilion Bird Flame Formation is a fierce formation that can kill nascent soul cultivators. It's not something I can set up with my current cultivation. Xiao Hua chuckled and said indifferently. Huang Mang was slightly disappointed and smiled apologetically. If Senior Xiao can repair it, my Tianmen Mountain will be safe for 1,000 years. Father, you're wrong. Huang Mingxiang reminded. Previously, Vermilion Bird Palace had a formation that couldn't be exposed to the outside world. Now that my Tianmen Mountain's mountain defense formation has been completed, let alone 1,000 years, even 10,000 years won't be a problem. Yes, Junior is a little greedy. Huang Mang said self-deprecatingly. Senior Xiao has worked hard. Junior will invite Senior to the banquet later. Okay, Xiao Hua flicked his sleeves, nodded slightly and flew away. After Xiao Hua left, Huang Mang frowned and said, Xiang, was it Senior Zhao's idea to kill Jing Qifeng's cultivators? What? Huang Mingxiang raised his eyebrows and said, I made the decision. It has nothing to do with Senior Xiao. Sigh, I knew it. How could Senior Xiao be so decisive? Yang Fan also shook his head. Killing the cultivators of the three sects will probably cause a lot of trouble. So what? Huang Mingxiang sneered. If one comes, I'll kill one. If two come, I'll kill a pair. Let's see who dares to come. You may leave. Huang Liang sighed. Perhaps father is too conservative. Our Tianmen Mountain has been wronged for too long. Humph. As long as Senior Xiao is here, I may not be afraid even if the Haoming city comes. Huang Mingxiang didn't admit that she was wrong and sneered. All right, I didn't say you were wrong. Yang Fan said with a smile. It's rare for Tianmen Mountain to be so proud and elated. Why do you have to be so conflicted? Let's invite Senior Xiao for a drink. He has done too much for our Tianmen mountain. If it weren't for... As she said that, she turned to look at Huang Mengxiang, seemingly thinking about something. Senior Xiao doesn't like spirit wine that is too spicy. I've just found a very bland one. I don't know if it will suit his taste. Huang Liang apparently did not notice Yang Fan's gaze, nor did he notice Huang Mengxiang's slight uneasiness. However, when night fell and Huang Mengxiang came to the quiet room again to invite Xiao Hua to the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall, he was stunned. There was only a jade bottle and a jade slip on the futon that Xiao Hua often sat on. Xiao Hua was nowhere to be seen. Xiao Hua, Xiao Hua. Huang Mengxiang's heart suddenly felt like it was being torn apart. It was as if something that he felt he had suddenly disappeared. His heart was so empty that it was frightening. Huang Mengxiang grabbed the jade bottle and saw that there was only a pill without any fragrance in it. It looked inconspicuous. Huang Mengxiang didn't have divine thoughts, so he couldn't see the jade slip. He waved his hand and the jade slip flew into his hand. Then, he suddenly turned around and ran out of the quiet room. Father, mother, father, mother. Huang Mengxiang's tone was almost crying. Senior Xiao is gone. What do you mean Senior Xiao is gone? What's going on? Hearing Huang Mengxiang's voice and seeing that he didn't use a flying talisman or a messaging talisman, Huang Liang was shocked. Has Senior Xiao left? There is no trace of Senior Xiao in the quiet room. This is the jade slip and pill left on the futon that he usually sits on. Huang Mengxiang handed the jade slip over. Hurry up and see what Senior Xiao said. When Huang Liang took the jade slip, Yang Fan also asked with a pale face, Xiang, didn't you go to the quiet room next door to take a look? If Shui is still there, Senior Xiao will definitely not be far away. Yes, I forgot. Huang Mengxiang suddenly realized. I'll let me go and have a look. Then, she turned her head and said, hurry up and have a look. No need. Huang Liang waved her hand and said, Senior Xiao has already left Tianmen Mountain. When did Senior Xiao leave? I'll go after him. Huang Mengxiang was almost crying when she heard that. She was no longer the decisive female cultivator just now. Seeing Huang Mengxiang take out the flying talisman, Huang Liang sighed, grabbed her arm, and said, Senior Xiao has already left after coming back from the formation. You don't know where he has gone. Where are we going to find him? The Imperial Thunder Sect. I'll go to the Imperial Thunder Sect to find him. Huang Mengxiang said anxiously. He must be angry that I didn't listen to him and didn't let those cultivators go. Huang Liang had never seen Huang Mengxiang so anxious, so how could she not know what she was thinking? She sighed and said, Xiang, don't go. Senior Xiao doesn't blame you. He said clearly in the jade slip that this is your choice, and he won't blame you for it. He just has something else to do. He has been in Tianmen Mountain for too long, and he can't wait any longer. Really? Senior Xiao didn't say where he was going? Huang Mengxiang asked again with a relieved look on her face. How, of course not. If he had said, how could I not tell you? Huang Liang said lovingly. But Huang Mengxiang stretched out her hand and said, Father, give the jade slip to me. When I have a divine sense, I'll check it myself. No problem. Huang Liang handed the jade slip to Huang Mengxiang with a smile. Huang Mengxiang took it and hid it as if it was a treasure. Husband, the Suzaku ring seems to still be with Senior Xiao, right? And what's with this jade bottle? Seeing Huang Mengxiang's behavior, Yang Fan looked at the jade bottle in Huang Liang's hand and reminded her. Chapter 1966. Mother, why would Senior Xiao care about the family heirloom of Tianmen Mountain? Huang Mengxiang clapped her hands and took out the vermilion bird ring. She said regretfully, Senior Xiao gave this to me 10 days ago. I was only immersed in repairing the array and didn't think much of it. Now that I think about it, Senior Xiao had already thought of leaving. Good, that's good. Yang Fan looked at the Suzaku bracelet and whispered. Then he looked at Huang Liang, who was faintly excited, and said, Alas, Senior Xiao. Really? Come, let's talk in the quiet room. Seeing Huang Liang so excited, how could Yang Fan and Huang Mengxiang not know the rarity of the pills in the jade bottle? However, Huang Mingxiang was even more confused. All the elixirs that he had seen before had a medicinal smell that assailed his nostrils. How could this ordinary-looking elixir be anything good? Hundreds of miles away from Tianmen Mountain, a pair of beauties were flying leisurely. The woman with skin as white as jade and eyebrows as beautiful as a painting laughed and said, "Xiao Lang, you gave the Tianmen Mountain the parasol pill that can break the curse. They will burn incense every day for your kindness. Tizke, who knows if that thing can break the curse of the Huang family? Senior Huang, you didn't know, so how can I know? But since it's possible, why not give them one?" The woman was naturally Shui, and the one who answered was Xiao Hua. "Anyway, I have as many of these things as I want." "That's strange." Shui shook her head again. "Since you have so many, why not give them more? Only one? This doesn't seem to be your style. If you give too many things, others won't cherish them. Moreover, this parasol pill has a special meaning to me. If it wasn't useful to the Huang family, I wouldn't have given it to them." Xiao Hua explained, "Moreover, Huang Mingxiang's curse has lost its effect. If this parasol pill is effective, his and Yang Fan's children won't be affected by the curse, and the curse of the Huang family's direct bloodline will be broken. It's already good enough that I can help up to this point. There's no need for me to do more. Even if it's a favor, it should be limited. Too much will ruin things?" "Exactly. I thought you wanted to help me until the end. I was still waiting for Huang Mingxiang to reach the foundation establishment before you leave." Shui said faintly, "I even thought you wouldn't leave." "How could I? I still want to accompany you to see the sea. How can we not leave?" Don't tell me that this young lady isn't infatuated with you." Shui said with a smile, "Others may not know, but this concubine can see it clearly." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Shui was in the quiet room next to him. Whenever Huang Mingxiang came to the quiet room to listen to Xiao Hua's lecture on the Tao of array formations, Xiao Hua would open the restriction of the quiet room. Shui's divine sense could sweep in at will. Huang Mingxiang didn't know about this and would often say some ambiguous words. Xiao Hua didn't explain and simply ignored him. He only treated it as a child's depression. Your husband is upright and upright. I'm not afraid of these things." Xiao Hua smiled and held Shui's hand. "Your husband feels that little cabbage is really pitiful. It's better to make some." Xiao Hua originally wanted to say that he had obtained a lot from transcending Huang Yi and couldn't not repay Tianmen Mountain. However, when he thought about how this kind of memory had been erased by him, he changed his words. "Alas, no wonder little cabbage is so infatuated. Just look at Huang Mingxiang. He knows that you have a dual cultivation partner, but he's still so entangled." Shui also said unhappily, "Could it be that everyone in the Huang family is like this? Oh, what about little cabbage? Can you still keep it well?" I keep it well. "Do you want to see it?" Xiao Hua smiled apologetically. "No need, it's fine as long as she's living well." Shui bit her lips and said, "It's better than the real little cabbage. Alas, I should have put little cabbage in Senior Huang Yi's old residence, but you just had to take it." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Even if it was put back in the Han River, near Tianmen Mountain, it's hard to guarantee that those unscrupulous and ignorant fishermen would take it away and make it into other people's food. Rather than that, it's better to keep it with us." Shui snorted coldly and said, "I don't know what kind of powerful people this immortal alliance is. They actually made up such a vicious story and used the hands of others to destroy Senior Huang Yi's soul. It's really hateful." Xiao Hua put his index finger to his mouth and whispered, "Just by hearing this name, I know it's not easy to get along with. It has nothing to do with us, so it's fine if we don't talk about it." If you don't want to talk about it, then don't talk about it. As long as it doesn't stop you from accompanying me, why should I care about it?" Shui giggled and said. A trace of gloominess flashed through Xiao Hua's eyes. It seemed that he had a little impression of this immortal alliance, but if he thought about it carefully, there was no clue at all. In addition, fellow Taoist Chang from Mo Cloud Village came to Tianmen Mountain several times and seemed to want to see you, but you always refused. It's fine if you don't want to see him, but you still want me to go out. It's really embarrassing for me. Shue Shue complained again. It's not like you don't know Mo Cloud Village's plan. I don't mind helping them, but I can't be trapped, right? Xiao Hua said in a bad mood. Moreover, fellow Taoist Chang brought a lot of gifts, which made me feel a little distant and didn't let Chang Li Hao and the others feel close. Besides, Chang Xuemei seems to have some disputes with Ling Feiyun. Isn't it just right for you to go? Forget it, forget it. It's Feiyun's business. I'm too lazy to care about it. Shue Shue looked into the distance and whispered, should we take a detour now? Or fly directly to Haoming City? Xiao Hua thought for a moment, let's take a detour. If Huang Mingxiang and the others come, we might encounter them. I don't want to see them. Are you angry? Shue Shue looked at Xiao Hua thoughtfully, just because of what you said just now? Huang Mingxiang killed 6 or 7 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. That's not it. Xiao Hua shook his head. Miss Mingxiang's methods are indeed ruthless, different from mine. But thinking about it, her choice at that time was not wrong. If we didn't kill them, they would inevitably attract more fellow Taoists to come and cause trouble. Instead of that, it's better to kill them at that time and take advantage of them first. Haha, I think so too. Shue Shue nodded. Uncle also encountered a lot of such things in the Misty Mountain. Not to mention others, Pu Jianyuan of the Flying Phoenix Ridge is a very typical example. That's what it means to eliminate all evil. And I always feel that the heavenly Tao is merciful and should always give people a way to live. Xiao Hua also looked into the distance and nodded slightly. That's because my husband's methods are powerful. I don't care if they find more people. Shue Shue said, and the more people they bring, wouldn't my husband's harvest be more? Ha, Xiao Hua touched his nose and laughed. Maybe. My husband? Seeing Xiao Hua's action, Shue Shue smiled. In these 3 years, although my husband's cultivation seems to have not improved, I can feel that it's not stagnant. Moreover, my husband is becoming more and more profound, and I can no longer see through him. It really makes me feel uneasy. But today, hearing my husband's words, it seems it's still the same Xiao Hua. Is it? Xiao Hua said in a daze. Why didn't I feel it? Good preparation, amazing the world with a single brilliant feat. Isn't it all prepared for my husband? Shue Shue pursed her lips and smiled. Xiao Hua blinked his eyes, looking very pitiful. Wife, you think so highly of your husband, I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. Ha! Shue Shue couldn't help but laugh while holding her stomach. When she finished laughing, Xiao Hua took her arm and asked, let's not talk about my husband first. I also have a question to ask you. What? Shue Shue's bright eyes turned and smiled. If it's about the jade slip, I won't answer. Of course it's not about that. Xiao Hua shook his head and said, I want to ask you something. In these 3 years, you've been cultivating hard. Although I didn't say anything, from my observation, your magic power has also been improving. It seems to be different from the usual peak of qi refining where magic power is stagnant. Of course, this is your privacy. I'm just concerned about it. It doesn't matter if you don't say it. Hee. Shue Shue cast a glance at him and said, I thought you could always hold back, but I didn't expect you to still ask. Do you think I'm like Senior Huang and Senior Yang, having such a good opportunity to build my foundation all of a sudden? Hee, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Just pretend I didn't ask. Xiao Hua knew that Shue Shue had other secrets and quickly changed the topic. Alas, forget it. In fact, even if you didn't say it, I would have told you. Shue Shue sighed and said, my decision to go to the Misty Mountain for this foundation establishment experiential learning was correct. Uncle didn't expect that I would be able to build my foundation so quickly, so he didn't tell me in advance. I was afraid that it would delay my cultivation. Presumably, Xiaolang already knows that I have the true bloodline of the Thunder Beast, right? And, naturally. If not, why would the Thunder Beast protect you? Xiao Hua nodded and said, but it's precisely because of the Thunder Beast's bloodline that the success and failure of the bloodline. Not only is the Thunder Beast's bloodline difficult to awaken, but it also has extremely high requirements for building one's foundation. Shue Shue smiled bitterly and said, Uncle said a lot. so I won't explain it to you one by one. When it comes to building my foundation, Uncle told me to go with the flow and not be in a hurry to build my foundation. If I rush, not only will I fail to build my foundation, my life will also be in danger. Why is that? Xiaohua was shocked and secretly rejoiced that he didn't act rashly. It's actually quite simple. Shui smiled and said, because the bloodline contains the true bloodline of the Thunder Beast, this characteristic also appears in the meridians. After reaching the peak of the Qi refining realm, the hidden Thunder physique will compress true Qi. This way, although one's magic power will increase, the time it takes to condense true Qi will be delayed. Moreover, because it's compressed true Qi, it will be more difficult to condense it. However, if the true Qi isn't compressed enough, it won't be easy to control when condensing it. When building your foundation, it's very easy to reverse the true Qi into true Qi. Chapter 1967. Haha, I understand. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, once you reach foundation establishment, your magic power will definitely surpass those of the same level, even more powerful than Qi Refinement Great Circle. It really is the true blood of lightning beasts. It's exactly as Xiao said. Shui's brows were filled with indescribable joy. Only then can I be worthy of husband. Xiaohua nodded and smiled. Since it's like this, you should have told husband earlier. You've been so quiet and full of worries, it really makes husband worried. It's easy to say. Shui said again, it's precisely because there are so many benefits that foundation establishment is even more difficult. There are very few disciples in my Shui family who can reach foundation establishment. Although I'm already at the peak of Qi refinement, when it comes to foundation establishment, I have no confidence at all. Is there no other way? Xiaohua asked softly, if there's anything husband can do, don't hesitate to tell me. You can accompany me in cultivation, I don't want anything. Shui said very happily. Xiaohua said curiously, so there are still some ways? Right, do you use the things from the lightning beasts? Eldest senior brother gave us the corpses of the 2 lightning beasts. Seeing Xiaohua asking like this, Shui pondered for a moment, then clapped her hands and took out a jade slip, handing it to Xiaohua. This is what uncle gave me last time. I only took a simple look at it. Refining this thunder pill is really too difficult. Not to mention that we don't know alchemy, even if we did, the materials are extremely difficult to find. Just foundation establishment is already so tiring, I have a headache just thinking about it. Thunder pill? Xiaohua took the jade slip and immersed his divine sense in it, but after looking for a moment, his expression changed slightly. What was recorded in the jade slip was exactly the pill that Shui's ancestors used to promote foundation establishment. However, this pill was different from others. It was specifically targeted at the Shui family with the lightning beast bloodline. Wife is right. Xiaohua sighed and returned the jade slip to Shui and said with a bitter smile, not to mention that this pill refining technique is somewhat skillful, and not to mention that the soaring thunder pill requires the different blood of a male and female lightning beast. This husband has never even heard of that heavenly ingress. This spirit pill of yours doesn't just seem to be used for foundation establishment. I'm afraid it's used to stimulate the lightning beast's true blood, right? My husband is indeed brilliant. Shui took the jade scroll and said with a smile, that's right. It's not easy to awaken the bloodline of the thunder beast. If you can conjure a Dharmakaya, it'll be easy for you to build your foundation. That's right. Such a precious item is so difficult to refine. If there wasn't a generous reward, the pill formula of this high thunder pill would have been useless long ago. Xiaohua curled his lips. However, as he curled his lips, his heart moved, as if he had thought of something. Just as he was about to think about it again, he heard Shui say with a smile, when I was in Misty Mountain, I already knew that it would be difficult for me to build my foundation. Uncle sent me to the Imperial Thunder Sect to see if he could borrow the secret technique of the Imperial Thunder Sect to improve the possibility of building my foundation. However, he didn't expect that the Imperial Thunder Sect wouldn't have the power to reverse the situation. It's not that there's no power to reverse the situation. It's just that you didn't know at that time that eldest senior brother's Dao foundation was supplemented by the Thunder Pill secret technique. You will also have a way. Look, although you didn't intend to look for the lightning beast, didn't the true blood of the male and female lightning beast already arrive in front of you? Once you know what heavenly ingress is and find a senior who can refine pills, won't your problem be solved? How could it be so simple? Shue Shue snorted disdainfully. To extract the lightning beast's true blood requires a secret technique, and refining pills also requires a secret technique. Without the strength of a gold core, don't even think about it. In my situation, I can only ask my master, but she also doesn't know how to refine pills. Don't panic, don't panic. If 3 years isn't enough, then 5 years. If 5 years isn't enough, then 10 years. Xiaohua held Shue Shue's hand and said, "Your husband will always be waiting for you. After you build your foundation, I will dual cultivate with you." Husband? Shue Shue's face was slightly red. She leaned against Xiaohua's side and leaned on his arm, looking indescribably charming. But at this moment, a very inappropriate voice sweetly sounded, Good morals are really degenerating with each passing day. A great beauty with a virgin body is calling a pretty boy husband in broad daylight. Which family's disciple is this? This has really opened my eyes. This is simply more demonic than my heavenly demon sect. Who? Shue Shue's face was even redder. She raised her head and saw that several dozen feet away, 3 early-stage foundation establishment cultivators wearing strange clothes were walking over on clouds. The one who spoke was the person in front. This person was half a head shorter than an ordinary person. He was obviously a male cultivator, and his Adam's apple was very high. However, his face was as white as jade, and his facial features were picturesque. Especially his pair of elegant eyebrows, they were both thin and long, very beautiful. Unfortunately, the pair of eyes under his elegant eyebrows flashed with a somewhat lascivious light. In addition, he was wearing a brocade of flowers, making him look like a bride of the secular world. Looking at the 2 people behind him, one had a ferocious appearance, and the other looked simple and honest. However, they were both tall and strong, and incomparably majestic. Not only was their hair shaved clean, their clothes from head to toe looked like Taoist robes, but also like the sloppy clothes of a street beggar. Their arms, thighs, and tan chests and thick chest hair were exposed. Among them, the simple and honest-looking man was holding a petite female cultivator in his right arm. That female cultivator's beautiful hair was already scattered, and her clothes were also disheveled. Her head hung low, only revealing a snow-white nape. Seeing that they were 3 strange early-stage foundation establishment cultivators, Shue Shue's heart was greatly relieved. She sneered and said, "I am talking to my husband, what does it have to do with you? Although I haven't dual cultivated with my husband, I have already given my heart to my husband. What's so funny about this?" Ha, as expected of a pure little girl. The voice of the male cultivator in front was even more pleasant to listen to than Shue Shue's. "Little girl, you don't know the joy of dual cultivation, so why are you talking about dual cultivation here? Look at your husband, he's just a pretty boy. How can he compare to this servant? Look at this servant's 2 husbands. Both of them are comparable to you, the husband of this servant's. How about this? If you come with this servant will teach you the ability of dual cultivation. I'll let you have a taste of dual cultivation." Scram. Xiaohua saw that this guy's words were becoming more and more filthy and couldn't help but become angry. "If you say half a word more, this young master will chop off your neither male nor female dog head." He, the male cultivator pursed his lips and laughed. Unexpectedly, there was a hint of flirtatious feeling in his voice. "I didn't expect little Longjuan's temper to be so irritable. I just don't know how good your skills are." This servant hasn't finished speaking yet. "Little Langjun, you should also follow this servant. This servant is definitely more interesting than a young and inexperienced little girl like you. Damn it, what kind of people are they?" Xiaohua couldn't help but feel disgusted. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. Suppressing his disgust, he asked, You're from the heavenly demon sect?" He, naturally. Since you know we're from the Heavenly Demon sect, why don't you immediately join us? Our Heavenly Demon sect accepts disciples. Someone like little Lang Jun who has face, integrity, and cultivation will definitely be welcomed by the sect master. When Xiaohua heard this, he couldn't help but think of the incomparably handsome and devilish Zhang Qingxiao he saw in Lingpei Mountain Villa. Damn it, I didn't expect this guy to have such a hobby. But that day, I was still grateful that he seemed to have the intention to let go. Now that I think about it, this guy, I'm afraid he has other plans. Thinking of this, Xiaohua felt a burst of disgust and goosebumps almost appeared on his body. Chapter 1968. You're neither a man nor a woman. Xiaohua resisted his disgust and pointed his finger. I don't want to lower myself to your level and I don't want to get entangled with you. If you know what's good for you, quickly leave now. I'll pretend I didn't see you. That male cultivator still didn't get angry. He even stretched out his hand, made an orchid gesture, and pointed at Xiaohua. You're such an enemy. How did you know I like this kind of person who looks cultured and refined, but has a violent temper and actions? You're really a gift from the heavens. Soon after, he said to Xue Xue with a smile, Little girl, don't be jealous. I'll return your little husband to you. Moreover, he laughed again and said, I can also serve you together with your little husband. Shameless, Xue Xue couldn't bear it anymore. Her face flushed red. She clapped her hands, and the magic tool, Thunder Whip, appeared in her hands. Without hesitation, she circulated her magic power and swung it. The Thunder Whip produced traces of lightning, and it streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning, lashing towards the male cultivator. Oh my, you actually didn't listen to my words. You're really a virgin. The male cultivator covered his mouth. His movements were very charming. He swiped his orchid fingers and took out a pink-colored magic tool from his storage pouch. He shook his hand and threw it. From the magic tool, a sky full of flying flowers flew out. They all turned pink, and like peach blossoms, they blocked the attack in midair. Puff puff puff. The thunder whip broke the numerous peach blossoms, turning them into bits of pink powder that floated in the air. The thunder whip was also blocked by the remaining peach blossoms, unable to descend. Seeing the pink powder drifting away with the wind and gradually disappearing, Xiaohua's expression suddenly changed. He angrily cursed, Damn it! His figure flew to Xue Xue's side. He waved his hand, and a gust of wind came out of his sleeve. In an instant, the powder in the air, which was almost invisible, flew towards the male cultivator. The male cultivator was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect Xiaohua to be able to discover his trick. Moreover, when he saw Xiaohua's profound cultivation base, his eyes lit up with joy. He smiled tenderly and said, Ayaya, I didn't expect that little Lang Jun, who looks like you've just built your foundation, would have such a profound cultivation base. This really makes me secretly happy. You can stay, I'll let you have a taste of my yin and yang dual cultivation. With that, the demon cultivator waved his hand. The other two burly male cultivators also clapped their hands and took out banner-shaped magic tools from their storage pouches. Each of them stood in a direction, surrounding Xiaohua and Xue Xue. The female cultivator in their hands was also rudely thrown into the air. However, the female cultivator was still facing down, so they couldn't see her true appearance. Xiaohua hugged Xue Xue, his gaze roamed over the three figures, and transmitted his voice. The demon's magic tool is a bit strange, there seems to be poison inside, don't let these filthy things touch your body. Xue Xue's face was a bit red. Just now, she was angry and made a move. Indeed, she didn't think too much. After hearing Xiaohua's words, she was a bit scared. She immediately clapped her hands again. The butterfly orchid flew out and fluttered around her body, protecting her with butterflies. Good magic tool. The demon cultivator saw such a beautiful appearance of the butterfly orchid and his eyes lit up. He clapped his hands and said, This magic tool is really beautiful. Little Lang Jun, if you give this magic tool to me, I'll also let you feel comfortable. Your grandmother. Xiaohua was so angry that he laughed. If you have the ability, then come and take it yourself. I'll let you die right now. With that, he clapped his hands and took out the yang leaf fan. Good, it's a fire attribute physique, really wonderful. The demon cultivator clapped his hands again. I didn't expect to meet such a wonderful person along the way. Little Langjun is really a gift from the heavens. Of course, if it wasn't for you, how could I walk this path? Xiao Hua slightly urged his magic power, and the yang leaf fan was suffused with a red brilliance. Hee, then let me and my 2 Langjuns have a taste of little Langjun. As the demon cultivator spoke, he threw 2 coquettish glances at the 2 strong men. When the 2 strong men received the coquettish glances, it was as if they had eaten 10 great tonics. No matter if it was their essence, energy, or spirit, they were overflowing. The 2 men waved their hands at the same time, and magic power flowed out. The 2 magic tools banners were suffused with a pink color, and within the pink color, countless images of women appeared. Go! Following the 2 strong men's light rebuke, the magic tools in their hands were waved, and the countless women actually flew out of the pink banners, fluttering around Xiao Hua and Xue Xue. There's this kind of magic tool? Xiao Hua was a bit dumbfounded. Go! Seeing that Xiao Hua was holding the yang leaf fan in his hand, and only the light was overflowing, but he didn't wave it, Xue Xue couldn't help but become anxious. She waved her hand again, and the lightning whip flickered with lightning as it struck towards the woman. Pa pa pa, a burst of light sounds rang out, and the woman seemed to be hit by the lightning whip like a bubble. However, immediately after, one after another, vivid and lifelike women were born. Xue Xue's whip didn't seem to have any effect. Immediately after, from the direction of the sound, the pink undergarments once again flew in. With a shake, peach blossoms entered the woman's body, and with every peach blossom that touched her body, the woman transformed into an incomparably strong and robust man. Well, was there even a need to say it? As for what would happen next, Xiao Hua didn't even need to use his heels to know what was going to happen. How could he allow such a filthy thing to dirty Xue Xue's eyes? Bang! A flame dragon that had been condensed and hadn't been unleashed finally rose up from Xiao Hua's yang leaf fan. It was like a real dragon, and it roared, rolled, and coiled as it pounced towards those women formed from the banners. Although that demon was incomparably lascivious, he was also a person with discerning eyes. As soon as he saw Xiao Hua's yang leaf fan move, that imposing manner, that masculine fire, he immediately knew that his and the other 2 cultivators' magic treasures were all restrained by it. All the hidden tricks inside were about to fail. However, looking at Xue Xue's pure white skin and the radiance in Xiao Hua's eyes, he was somewhat reluctant. He clenched his teeth, clapped his hands, and took out a similarly bright red medicinal pill. He swallowed it, and in an instant his face flushed red. Rise? The demon's eyes were wide open, and his hands were like forks as they shot straight towards the sky. From his palms, a circle of magic power was released, but seeing Xiao Hua's fire dragon fan, it was definitely several times more tyrannical than when it was used against Pu Jianyuan at Misty Mountain. The 2 people surrounding Xiao Hua only saw a flash of fire in front of their eyes, and felt the blazing heat in the field. Their eyes slightly closed, and their divine sense swept out. At this instant, the illusions formed by the magic banners and the insidious medicine under the illusions were all swept away by the fire. But at this moment, the demon's attack arrived again. The bright red undergarment was suddenly torn apart, and bursts of blood flowed out from the undergarment. That blood was incomparably fishy, and faintly, there was a baby-like evil spirit that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Swoosh! The fire dragon that was incomparably powerful just a moment ago was immediately extinguished when it came in contact with the blood. Moreover, the blood covered Xiao Hua and the others. Before it could sprinkle down, a strange dizzying smell rushed into Xiao Hua and Xue Xue's nostrils. This is menstrual water, and a purple placenta that hasn't given birth yet. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over, and his complexion greatly changed, immediately becoming gloomy. From Huang Yi's inheritance, he understood a lot of ghost cultivator techniques, and he understood a lot of extremely sinister tricks. Although he didn't know what this thing that the demon took out was, he was very clear about the things that were used to refine it. There was no need to talk about the menstrual water, but that purple placenta was something used to give birth to babies. If it was a simple purple placenta, how could it possibly have a sinister effect? How could there be a baby-like evil spirit? Needless to say, the demon must have taken out an unborn baby from a pregnant woman's body and then used it to refine it. Only then could he have a method that even Xiao Hua, who was at Foundation establishment, would find difficult to handle. Xiao Hua knew how powerful this was, and he naturally also knew that magic artifacts like the Yang Leaf Fan and even magic treasures like the Cloud-Suppressing Seal couldn't be touched by this filth. Otherwise, the array within would definitely be corroded, and it would be completely useless. This young master originally didn't intend to take your lives. Since you're so sinister, the heavenly demon sect isn't any good either. Xiao Hua sneered. This young master will transcend all of you. As Xiao Hua spoke, he put away the Yang Leaf Fan, and with a wave of his hand, he took out the banner that he previously obtained from the heavenly demon sect. Profound Yin banner? Why do you have the Profound Yin banner? When the demon saw Xiao Hua's banner, he was also stunned, but what happened next made him feel even more inconceivable. He saw Xiao Hua toss the Profound Yin banner into the air, and his left hand slightly stretched out, as if he was grabbing something from the void. Soon after, he waved his hand again, and the Profound Yin banner suddenly opened up in the air, emitting a pitch-black brilliance. You're also a member of my devil sect? The demon was shocked and anxiously asked. Why would Xiao Hua pay attention to him? Activating the Profound Yin banner, the banner swayed, and the ink-black brilliance not only blocked the blood spilled by the demon, but also produced a boundless suction force from the banner, sucking the fanged ghosts in the blood into the Profound Yin banner. Which senior of my heavenly demon sect are you? The demon hurriedly activated his sinister magic artifact, wanting to take back the ghosts, but the suction force from the Profound Yin banner was not something he could resist, so he could only cry out and ask, "Go to hell!" When Xiao Hua saw that the Profound Yin banner had sucked away the ghosts in the blood, he rubbed his hands together, and streaks of purple true Samadhi fire appeared in his hands. Following Xiao Hua's wall of fire technique, they immediately surged toward the three people from the heavenly demon sect. True Samadhi fire. The demon was anxious, and he did not care about his other two companions. His feet moved slightly, and his entire body was about to fly away. You want to leave now? How is that possible? Xiao Hua sneered, and with a wave of his big sleeve, the great confinement technique was cast at the three people at the same time. Immediately, a force that made them feel as if they were invincible was born, and it sucked away the heaven and earth spiritual energy around them. It was as if a large hand was squeezing them, and they were unable to move at all. Chapter 1969. Senior, please spare my life. Senior, please spare my life. This junior didn't know that Senior was a cultivator of my heavenly demon sect. This junior has offended you. This junior deserves to die. At this moment, not only the demon, but the other two cultivators were also anxious. They shouted and struggled with all their might. Xiao Hua was not moved at all. Like a tidal wave, the wall of fire rushed into the air and ignited the three sinister magic tools. Then, something fell down and covered the three cultivators. At the same time, three miserable screams were heard. The true Samadhi fire turned the three cultivators' bodies into ashes in an instant. Although this power could not be compared to the Vermilion Bird Great Formation of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall, it was still extremely easy to kill a Foundation establishment cultivator. Darling Xiao. Seeing the power of the true Samadhi fire, Xue couldn't help but be stunned. Although you've been repairing Tianmen Mountain's formation these past 3 years, your cultivation seems to have not stopped. Especially this true Samadhi fire, it's even more powerful than when you dealt with Senior Huang Yi that day. Hehe, Xiao Hua waved his hand and the three people's storage pouches flew into his hand. He casually looked at them and put them away. He said with a smile, Tianmen Mountain has the bloodline of the vermilion bird. They are also proficient in fire spells. Most of those formations are also related to fire. Even if your husband did not specifically cultivate, how could the control of the true Samadhi fire be lacking after being immersed in the formation for 3 years? What is this profound Yin banner? Shue Shue looked at the pitch-black profound Yin banner in the air with some confusion. Sigh, I obtained this banner by chance when I was training with senior sister Sun Shu and the others. I don't usually use it. Later, I saw how powerful the ghosts were and your husband had no way to deal with them. Only then did I remember this demonic item and casually refined it. Today, I used it to collect the ghosts. It's quite convenient. As Xiaohua spoke, he pointed his finger and the profound Yin banner rolled up and flew into his hand. Yes, since you used ghosts to refine a magic treasure, it must be something that harms people. This kind of demon should be eliminated as soon as possible. Shue Shue did not ask Xiaohua how to deal with the ghosts and said hatefully, as for this female cultivator, I don't know where she came from. I'm afraid she was forcefully captured by the demon. Xiaohua's divine sense swept and looked at the female cultivator who was facing down. I'll go take a look. Shue 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 Shue. Let your husband do it. Xiaohua flung his sleeve, and that female cultivator was flipped over by a big hand. Shue Shue smiled and said, Xiao Lang, what do you want me to say? Your magic has really risen with the tide, making it difficult for this lowly concubine to look up to you. Hee, you'll know once your magic power is refined. Xiaohua smiled. He knew that his magic power was profound, but his magical techniques were shallow. Although he didn't have the time to truly organize the bags of holding of the gold core cultivators, he still had jade slips that he could use to gain enlightenment. Although it seemed easy to casually flip over the female cultivator's body, it was much more difficult to do so, as if he were actually moving a hand. Shue Shue and Xiaohua were chatting. When the female cultivator turned around and saw the female cultivator's face, Shue Shue was somewhat surprised. What do you think? Previously, it was already said that those who could cultivate and enter the Tao all had outstanding aptitudes. They were the gathering of heavenly spirits, especially female cultivators. Which one of them wasn't abnormally beautiful? But this female cultivator in front of her was clearly an exception. Not only was her figure bloated, her face was like a pancake, with a sunken nose, a bloody mouth, and a few large pockmarks on her face that shone with oil. This is a female cultivator? Shue Shue was somewhat surprised. If it wasn't for this female cultivator's good skin and her bulging chest, she would almost think that she was a male cultivator. Yes, she's definitely a female cultivator. Xiaohua concluded based on his male intuition. I just don't know how a demon from the heavenly demonic sect would take a fancy to this kind of beauty. Are you a demon? Shue Shue asked in all seriousness. Xiaohua was stunned. Of course I'm not. Then how do you know her hobbies? Speaking up to hear, Shue Shue's face reddened again, and she glared at Xiaohua. You clearly could have used a Yang fan to break the illusion from the beginning, so why didn't you do it? Could it be? As she spoke, she looked at the female cultivator's chest. I'm innocent. Xiaohua raised his hand and said, I just want to see what other tricks they have, and see if they're worth killing. You want to kill even the demons from the heavenly demonic sect. Don't blame me for not reminding you in the future. Shue Shue put her hands on her hips and said angrily, but then she felt that she was too arrogant, so she put her hands down again. Seeing Shue Shue's arrogance that hadn't been seen for a long time, Xiaohua's eyes lit up, and he nodded repeatedly. I know. Yes, then wake this female cultivator up and ask about the situation. Shue Shue immediately withdrew her arrogance, and said somewhat charmingly. But Xiaohua looked at the female cultivator, and his divine sense swept over her. He then took out the demon storage pouch, took out a few jade slips, and looked at them for a long time before taking out a jade box. He shook his head and said, Dawn Rain Continent is really full of knowledge. If this storage pouch is gone, it'll be a bit difficult to wake this female cultivator up. Inside the jade box was a light green ointment that emitted a pungent fragrance of cosmetics. Xiao Hua raised his hand, and a piece of ointment flew up and landed under the female cultivator's nose. Achoo, choo. The female cultivator sneezed dozens of times in a row, then immediately woke up. However, before she could open her eyes, she cursed angrily. Damn you, Fan Qian, you actually dared to plot against your mother? Don't tell me you forgot? When you were a loose cultivator, it was your mother who gave it to you. As she spoke, she waved her hand, and dozens of fireballs flew out from her hand, enveloping Xiao Hua and Xue Xue. Good gracious, it's actually a female cultivator who just entered foundation building. Xiao Hua didn't expect that he would casually save a foundation building cultivator. Moreover, her temper was so fiery, attacking and injuring people without even opening her eyes and sweeping her divine sense. Unfortunately, this female cultivator's angry attack was still not enough for Xiao Hua to see. Xiao Hua swung his sleeve, and a surge of magic power caught all the fireballs like a large hand and threw them far away. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A burst of chaotic sounds. Only at this moment did that bloated female cultivator open her eyes. Her divine sense swept over, and she said in shock, "Sleeve Cosmos technique? You're a disciple of Blood Ray Island? Fan Qian? Where's that guy Fan Qian?" Fellow Taoist. Xiao Hua frowned slightly, feeling somewhat displeased in his heart. This technique was something he learned from a jade slip, and he was called out just as he used it. I'm not a disciple of Blood Ray Island, and there's no one called Fan Qian here. May I know where you're from? You were actually captured by 3 heavenly demonic sect cultivators? Heavenly demonic sect? The female cultivator sneered. That androgynous fellow is called Fan Qian. Previously, he was just a loose cultivator. Damn you, I haven't seen him for more than 10 years, and he actually entered foundation building. When he met me, he actually used a secret technique to knock me out. Damn you, he entered Heavenly Demonic Sect? What kind of sect is Heavenly Demonic Sect? How come I don't know about it? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.